the destiny and the path that we take, and a discourse towards how equitably and how optimally we can use this public good for our own good, to make ourselves benefit. Now, each year, every day that we go by, technology evolves. So does the internet, because technology sits on the bedrock of internet. So the discussions we were holding 5 years ago are completely different from the discussions we are holding today. And this is not because we are diverging from what we intend to have as a benefit from internet. It's because technology evolves. Today we are speaking about internet in the age of artificial intelligence. And every day, these discussions keep evolving. I attended the Global IGF in 2023, about 3 years ago, in Asia, in Japan. At that time, the global focus was on how do we develop guidelines for the global south to adapt for artificial intelligence. But today, the same G7 countries are trying to benchmark from the global south to improve what they call their guidelines. So there's reverse engineering in this whole process, because there is no one size fits all when it comes to internet. What I use internet for in my innovation could be an innovation that could influence the lives of others offshore, so many miles away from us. Early this morning, I was watching something on LinkedIn, and there's a Kenyan journalist that was talking about how artificial intelligence and the tools that we are now consuming in artificial intelligence from OpenAI, from the big LLM platforms that we are using today, the ChatGPT, Perplexity, and God knows what, and how they are being priced globally, where they tell you, for you to be able to have a premium for ChatGPT, $20 a month or $9 a month, or you have these premiums, and God knows, you know how they price these things. And this Kenyan journalist was talking about the Kenyan experience and how we could optimize consumption and usage of these AI tools through models of pricing that we are accustomed to. And he was saying, if I can be able to buy with my mobile money an amount of credit for artificial intelligence, even for a day, I could be needing it for a session. For the whole of today, I'm working on an assignment, but I won't need it tomorrow. Why am I paying $20 to do this, and if I don't have a credit card? And the same discussions we were having at the General Assembly in Copenhagen last year at the International Software Testing Qualifications Board General Assembly, while we were talking about how much contribution does plastic produce and donate to the environment. And some of us were challenging them, saying, if you are to collect all the plastic cards that we have as credit cards and as all these cards, royalty cards and everything, they are made in plastic. The West is still stuck on those legacy systems, while Africa has leapfrogged to very good payment systems like mobile money. Very easy. United States, India, China, big nations. If they were all to adopt mobile money, we would actually dispose of the plastics that pose danger to our environment. Today, these are the discussions around which we'll be talking about. And I'm glad that we have the blend of knowledge in the room to be able to address these critical issues. We're just a few minutes away from our guest of honor who will be coming in shortly. But as we we wait for another extra minute or two, I need all of us to be looking at these ideas, because these discussions become healthier and wealthier as we keep them on the table. Each time we divert from that discourse, then we get problems. And that's why it's our voice in this room for us to determine the destiny and the next discourse for internet governance. And internet governance is a global framework. It's a global framework from the United Nations that goes down. It's a bottom-up approach. So you have the United Nations, then you have global regions. So you have continents. So we have an IGF at a continental level. And then we also have IGF at regional levels. You know, the regional economic blocks. Africa has 8 of them. Asia Pacific could be having many of them. So we also have IGF at that layer, and then goes down to countries. So you have IGF at a country level. And for us at the Rwanda IGF, our target is to make sure that we follow that bottom-up approach to even bring IGF to the Mutulaje right down on the ground. We are strengthening our secretariat to be able to have functional and annual tasks that we, all of us in this room and people outside this room, can be able to, have an outreach with this secretariat and obtain the necessary data and information that you need for internet governance. Because it's a work for all of us. And your voice is as important as anyone else's. So we have different multi-stakeholders. We have government, we have civil society, we have private sector, we have academia, we have youth, we have women organizations, we have, a whole range and spectrum of stakeholders. And you constitute that portion of all those stakeholders as I mentioned them. So I wish you all well. I'll be your host tonight. Like I said, my name is Robert Ford. Please, don't forget that name. Yeah, because you'll be coming back to me, so people forget that name. Yeah, and along with other people here, we make sure that this event happens every year. And yeah, I thank you very much, and I'll be back here when our guest of honor walks into the house, and we will proceed with our first presentation. If you're not clapping for me, I won't leave this podium.
Sway distant bar, like a lonely soul that's come too far. I feel that sound cut deep and true, like it knows my story better than I do. Oh, this blue suit blues, it's all I can feel. A melody deep, so smooth and so real. In the still of the night, it's where I belong. These midnight blues play my heart's song. Every heartbeat in a minor tone tells me I was never alone. Never alone. In every silence, in every bruise, I found my truth in these blues. So I won't fight what I can't undo. I wear it proud, this midnight blue, with my blue suit on and nothing to lose. I become a hollow wind hums through iron rails, carrying stories the night never tells. I stand there quiet, no need to choose, just letting it breathe. Blue suit blues. Oh, this blue suit blues, it's all I can feel. A melody deep, so smooth and so real. In the still of the night, it's where I belong. Soft rain falls on the avenue line, each drop hitting slow like a measured time. I tilt my head, got nothing to prove, just letting it blend with the midnight groove. Oh, this blue suit blues, it's all I can feel. A melody deep, so smooth and so real.
I think I'll seek your attention again. I hope I haven't held you for too long. Our guest of honor is in the house now, but before anything else, I need to ask people who are seated at the back. You have a privilege to listen to me because of my voice and the microphone, but some people may not have this who will be speaking. So I need to beg you to come in front, fill up the chairs at the front before we can start. Yes. Yeah. Our dear guest of honor, the PS, the Ministry of ICT and Innovation, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen in the house. We're just about to kick off with our 2026 Rwanda IGF Forum, whose theme is governing the internet in the age of intelligence and exploring our shared responsibility. We'll be starting with a number of speeches from key players in the industry who will give us the context of what we'll be discussing today. And without wasting much time, I wish to invite Grace Ingabire, the CEO of RICTA. RICTA is the secretariat of IGF for now. They have been hosting us for very many years. And so I wish to request Grace to come and deliver her remarks. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Mwaramutse. To the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of ICT and Innovation, Deputy Resident Representative of UNDP, esteemed delegates, young leaders, partners, good morning. Mwaramutse neza. So welcome to our forum. It's a true honor to stand before you today as we open this year's Internet Governance Forum under the theme, Governing the Internet in the Age of Intelligence, Our Shared Responsibility. So that theme speaks directly to the moment we are living in. Artificial intelligence, digital infrastructure, and digital finance are converging faster than most institutions can regulate them. Rwanda has become a continental reference point for digital transformation, from Irembo to our national identity systems to our growing ambitions in digital payment and innovation. Thank you to the Ministry of ICT and Innovation for ensuring that innovation continues to serve every Rwandan, not to privilege a few. UNDP partnership with Rwanda has been instrumental in aligning our digital ambitions with sustainable development, inclusion, and human rights. Your presence today, Nana, reaffirms that digital governance is a development imperative. And to our sponsors, speakers, and partners who made this gathering possible, thank you. Your support turns dialogue into actions, and we are deeply grateful for your continued investment in Rwanda's digital future. Before I speak to the substance of this forum, I want to draw attention to two events that were held 4 days ago, because they represent something this theme demands of us, which is our shared responsibility across generations. The first is the School of Internet Governance, which equipped 100 professionals with the technical and policy literacy needed to participate meaningful in this debate, not just as observers, but as informed contributors to how our digital future is governed. Building governance capacity is not a one-time event. It's an investment we must keep regularly. And I thank the Internet Society, the Rwanda chapter, for their contribution to building a lasting bench of digital governance expertise. We also held a session during the Youth IGF at the University of Rwanda, which brought together close to 100 participants, which are students from different universities across Rwanda, to debate and shape their own vision for internet governance. One of their representatives will speak shortly on the outcomes of that meeting, because governing is in the age of intelligence is not just about today's leaders, it's about preparing tomorrow's. Rwanda Vision 2050 placed digital transformation at the heart of our national ambition. And this is precisely where the global theme of governing internet in the age of intelligence, our shared responsibility, comes real and local. As we build digital public infrastructure, the payment rails and data exchange layers that will carry our economy forward, we must ask who governs the infrastructure that governs everyone else. DPI, or digital public infrastructure, can bring millions of unbanked Rwandans into the formal economy and make government services faster and more accessible. Our task is to design a regulatory framework that is agile enough to foster innovation and firm enough to protect our citizens. It is in this spirit that today's program is structured around 3 panels that carry this shared responsibility forward. Our first panel examines the foundations of a trusted digital Rwanda and digital financial ecosystem, because trust is not a byproduct of technology. It's engineered deliberately through interoperable systems, robust security, and legal clarity that gives both innovators and citizens the confidence to participate fully. Our second panel turns to regulation, innovation, and digital asset opportunities. Rwanda's opportunity is to design regulation that reflects our own context while remaining interoperable with global standards. Our third, which will be our final panel, addresses the most consequential question of artificial intelligence, governance, and accountability in Rwanda. So together, these 3 panels, from foundation to trust, to regulation and innovation, to AI accountability, embody what is this year's theme: ask all of us, that governing the internet, and increasingly governing internet intelligence itself, is a shared responsibility, and no single institution can carry it alone. Governing the internet, and increasingly governing intelligence itself, is not the task of any single ministry, any company, any institution. It's a shared responsibility between government, private sector, civil society, development partners, and, as we are reminded this week, our young people. Let the energy from the Youth IGF and the School on Internet Governance carry into every session ahead. So let today's discussion shape policy, shape partnerships, and shape a Rwanda where technology is not something that happens to our citizens, but something we build deliberately together for their benefit. So I thank you for honoring today's discussion, and thank you all for being here with us.
Another big round of applause for the CEO, Grace. Thank you for your very inspiring words and addressing the theme and the context of today's function and forum. At this point, I wish to invite someone who is going to represent the voice of the youth, the Rwanda Youth IGF representative. If you're here, please come here and deliver your remarks. Thank you.
Honorable and Permanent and Secretary of Minister of ICT, distinguished guests, and my fellow young, good morning. My name is Nadine Skugabo, and I'm truly honored to be representing the voice of youth people in Rwanda government forum. So, as young people, we are truly thank government of Rwanda and all stakeholders to their leadership and commitment advancing to the country digital transformation agenda. Through investment in digital infrastructure, innovation, digital public services, and skills development, Rwanda has established a strong foundation for inclusive and digital empowerment society. These achievements have created a new opportunity to us in education, in entrepreneurship, in financial inclusion, and also to access the services and participation in digital economy. As young people, we are proud to be a part in the journey and recognize the collective effort that have brought on this stage. So, to the progress we are already to achieve, we are already achieved, we would like to highlight the several areas continued to collaboration and create the greater impact. So the first one, the digital inclusion. While the internet society continued to expand across the country, we improve affordability access to digital devices and availability to relevant digital services will help to ensure the more citizen practically to those rural young people, underserved community, and can fully participate in digital economy. The second one, access the employability digital skills. Rwanda has made a significant investment in digital literacy and skills development to building and achieving expanded practical, community-based and industry-based. Through that, there is the challenges. Which is continue to expand of access, funding, mentorship, and also a collaboration, researching opportunity and strategy of partnership will enable promising idea to become sustainable ventures. So we were encouraged to increase participants as young people are shaping Rwanda digital future. On 27th July this year, Rwanda successfully convened the Youth Internet Governance Forum that were happening at UR Gikondo. It's bringing together youth people from across country to discuss emerging digital issues and develop recommendation contributing in this forum. This demonstrates that youth are informed, engaged, and ready to participate and contract in internet governance in digital policy discussion. Today, we are respectful and encouraged all stakeholders and continue to work together with expand affordable internet access and access digital devices for all citizens, and also strengthen youth to innovate through funding, mentorship, incubation, research, and partnership. We also encourage to expand particular industries relevant digital skills development across the schools, universities, and TVT's institutions. We also encouraged to promote meaningful youth participation in internet governance and policy making. We also encourage to foster enabling environment and digital and create economy through improved access to digital market and monetization opportunity and digital payment strategy. As young people, we are committed ourselves to work alongside government and private sectors and civil society, technical community, academia, and development partnership to build a secure inclusion and innovative to digital futures. So together, let us continue building Rwanda where technology creates an opportunity for all, innovate, and every citizen can participate in meaningful digital in economy. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Diane, for those inspiring words, especially to the youth in Rwanda. And your words were very deep, talked about rural access and affordability, continuous participation. You talked about youth across the country, this year having been a very inclusive IGF, where you had people from the urban centers, but also in the rural centers. You talked about access, research, and partnerships, which I think is very critical to internet governance. You also talked about improved access to digital markets, which I think is the age in which we are. So thank you very much for inspiring your fellow youth on this day. I would like this time to invite our keynote speech from Osman Issa from Smart Africa, who will be doing a deep dive in one of the key items on internet governance today. Issa Osman, the floor is yours. Thank you.
I introduced myself to you earlier. Good morning. My name is not Osman. I'm Dr. Ralph Oyini Mbuna, the Director of Digital Transformation at Smart Africa. Pleasure to be here. To the Permanent Secretary at Mini ICT and our guest of honor, to the Deputy Resident Representative at UNDP, to the CEO of Rwanda Internet Governance, to all CEOs and DGs present today, representatives of government, the private sector, civil society, academia, the whole technical community, and the youth. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Unfortunately, the CEO of Smart Africa, Mr. Lassina Kone, was unable to join us today due to unforeseen commitments. He asked me to represent him. I try to do my best to fill his shoes. You know, he has huge shoes, so I will try to do my best. I have the content, I have the words, so it should work. The theme of this forum is very timely, ladies and gentlemen. Governing the internet in the age of intelligence and shared responsibility. I saw the agenda, I look at the 3 panels, very good topics. But the words that really captured my attention were a shared responsibility. Shared responsibility. And I think it was said in the previous speech, the internet today is not governed by governments alone, by the private sector alone, or by engineers alone, regulators, or civil society alone. MC also said it in the beginning. It's governed through the interaction of all these communities. And this is why this forum matters. It brings together those who build the infrastructure, those who regulate it, those who use it, and the young people who will shape the future. The youth in the room, you're the present. You're not the future. You're the present and you shape the future. You're very important. You're actually the most important. At Smart Africa, our vision is to transform Africa into a single digital market, where businesses and digital services can move across borders with trust, and citizens can participate safely in the digital economy. There can be no single digital market without trusted and well-governed internet. It's just impossible. This is why this initiative is so important to us and to the CEO of Smart Africa. Internet governance is not only a technical discussion. It's a development issue, it's an economic issue, and it's a sovereignty issue. Let me be clear. By sovereignty, digital sovereignty in this instance, we do not mean disconnecting Africa from the world. That's not what we mean by sovereignty. Sovereignty means to us having the capacity to make informed decisions, having the capacity to protect our critical infrastructure, having the capacity to ensure African priorities are represented in the world. Sovereignty is not isolation. Sovereignty is capacity. And this is what we do at Smart Africa. We support our member states, 42 member states, with the capacity to own their priorities and their agenda. Africa has capable experts, strong institutions. Africa has talents and innovators. What's missing is the coordination of all those voices. I've been to many of these events globally. You have African experts there, you have African countries separated at one corner of the room. It's difficult to have them speak the same voice. And in global negotiations, fragmented expertise does not become influence. Africa does not lack voices. Africa needs greater coordination between its voices at national, at regional, at continental level. This is the thinking behind the Smart Africa's Internet Governance Blueprint. Developed with member states and the Internet governance community, the blueprint aims to establish common principles, strengthen national capabilities, and improve Africa's participation in global Internet governance. It has undergone community consultation and will be submitted to the next Smart Africa Steering Committee in September. The blueprint has also informed the proposed Council of Africa Internet Governance Agencies that we call CAIGA. Smart Africa, we have these African councils. We have the AI African Council. We have the Council of African IT Agencies. We have the Council of Ministers, of ICT Ministers. And now we want to launch the Council of Africa Internet Governance Agencies soon. There are many questions about KAIGA, about that council. Many questions. I'm not going to address all of those questions. I'm just going to say a few things. KAIGA will not allocate IP addresses. This is not KAIGA. We're not going to do that. KAIGA will not replace Afrinic, will not replace ICANN, will not replace IGF, will not replace ITU, will not replace RICTA. That's not the point of KAIGA. KAIGA is intended to be a coordination platform where African stakeholders come together and prepare coordinated response to the rest of the world. You know, I like to say it, but I'm going to allow myself to say it because I'm at home. I'm in Rwanda. It's a battlefield out there, you know. It's a battlefield, you know. I've seen also places where you had like delegations of, I don't know, almost 100 people from one country, and then you have Rwanda here coming with 2 or 3 countries, and then you have Gabon, where I'm coming from, coming with 3, 4 experts, right? And if we don't work together, it's hard to compete. Let me talk, my last point, let me talk about AI a little bit. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is transforming economies and public services. But AI governance and internet governance are not separate conversations. AI depends on connectivity, data, cybersecurity, and trusted digital systems. AI may be the new engine, but the internet remains the road on which it travels. So both conversations are very valuable and come together. So my message is simple, especially to the youth. I told you, you're the present and you shape the future. Participate, ask difficult questions. You have experts here on the first row. They know everything, almost everything. Ask those questions. Challenge them. And you're not here to listen. You're here to be part of this. Okay? As a closure, Africa digital sovereignty will not be built by one government, one institution, or one company alone. I like to use this African proverb: one finger cannot pick up a stone. I mean, if you can do this, you're amazing, but one finger cannot pick up a stone on the ground. Our digital future is very similar. We must build it together. And this is what shared responsibility is. We must build it together. So on behalf of Mr. Lassina Kone, the CEO of Smart Africa, and the entire Smart Africa family, thank you to the government of Rwanda, as always. Thank you to RICTA. Thank you to the Rwanda Internet Governance Forum and all the partners who made this gathering possible. Thank you very much. Murakaze.
Thank you, Dr. Ruff. A quick story here. A very old African president, I can't mention his name, was walking down the staircase. He was senile. He had been in power for too long. And he fell off the staircase. So people came running and, they made him stand again. The first thing he said, said, it has nothing to do with my age. It's the staircase which was badly laid. So Dr. Ralph, not having said your name properly and confused you with someone else, has nothing to do with my age. But I greatly apologize. So thank you very much for your very inspiring words and the very good work you're doing at Smart Africa. And amongst us are colleagues who are working with you to make sure that you realize that future that we are all looking at. I wish now to invite our next keynote from Ms. Nana Chimbua from UNDP. The floor is yours. Thank you very much. Let's give her a round of applause as she approaches the bench.
Our guest of honor, dear PS of the Ministry of ICT and Innovation, dear CEOs here present of RISA and RICTA and other distinguished CEOs, esteemed leadership of RICTA and Rwanda Internet Governance Forum Secretariat, the esteemed partners, and of course the distinguished young men and women, all protocols observed. Good morning. Maramutse. That's as far as my Kenya Rwanda goes. Today's convening of the Rwanda Internet Governance Forum clearly demonstrates the kind of multi-stakeholder cooperation and shared accountability and collective action that is required to realize the principles and ambitious aim of the global digital agenda. I was happy to hear the CEO of RICTA note that this is also very important to development. As you know, I'm from UNDP. So I want to really extend my warmest congratulations to the Ministry of ICT and Innovation, to RICTA, and all the diverse partners who are contributing to this event, because this is an important and critical national conversation that needs to happen. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we must also commend Rwanda for its visionary prioritization of technology across all sectors. This is a commitment that has positioned the country as a shining model and blueprint for digital transformation across the entire African continent. This year's forum comes at an important and timely juncture because we all heard the announcement 2 days ago that Rwanda will be phasing out the legacy 2G and 3G connectivity to pave the way for high-speed digital infrastructure. So this forum carries a profound moral obligation to ensure, as we say in the UN, that absolutely no one is left behind in this transition. We must collectively acknowledge that the affordability of internet-enabled devices and data connectivity remains a significant barrier for many ordinary citizens. Solving this affordability gap is not a challenge that the government can or should solve alone. It is a shared mandate that falls upon every single representative in this room, including the private sector, the telecom operators, the civil society, and the development partners like UNDP. We must work together to ensure that the transition to modern networks acts as a bridge to expand inclusion rather than a barrier that deepens the digital divide. For us at UNDP, this year's theme, Governing the Internet in the Age of Artificial Intelligence, Our Shared Responsibility, is really grounded in our recent initiatives. As Rwanda continues to pioneer and advance digital platforms, UNDP remains a proud partner in strengthening this foundation to ensure that the country's public systems are not only efficient, but also highly secure, I can never pronounce this word, interoperable, and anchored in the principles of trust and safety. It is important to highlight that the government builds these secure and inclusive foundations to create an environment where public institutions and citizens can interact and innovate with complete confidence, safeguarding individual digital rights while also accelerating national development. To build a trusted digital future, the country's artificial intelligence infrastructure must be matched by localized, human-centric governance. Under the Timbuktu framework, UNDP supports this vision by investing in sovereign AI infrastructure platforms and trust and capacity building programs. We are particularly happy to see this policy dialogue on digital governance, the policy dialogue on digital governance during this forum. So for us, ultimately, we hope that this year's forum will be remembered as the decisive moment we translated our shared responsibility into concrete, coordinated action. As I conclude, please allow me to call upon all the partners gathered here today, from governments, the private sector, civil society, and the youth, to actively join forces and support the implementation of Rwanda's national digital initiatives, from the national AI policy to our digital public infrastructure. Because at UNDP, we stand ready to support the government's dedicated actions and will remain the long-term partner through every step of this journey. Morocco Zechani, thank you.
Another big round of applause for our UNDP representative. And it's now my honor and privilege to invite our distinguished guest of honor, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of ICT and Innovation, my brother and friend. P.S., the floor is yours. Thank you.
Madam Chair, so good morning. Dear Deputy UN Resident Representative, our sister Nana, representative from government, private sector, civil society, technical community, academia, and research institutions, the Rwanda IGF Secretariat, and the RICTA, together with the Rwanda IGF Organizing Committee, development partners, leaders of our youth groups, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, good morning once again. It is my honor to deliver these remarks on behalf of the Honorable Minister of ICT and Innovation, who regrets that she's unable to join you in person this morning and who has asked me to convey her greetings and her full confidence in this forum. Allow me to begin with a word of appreciation, not only to each of you for being here, but for what this room itself represents. Around us today, sit government and industry, regulators and innovators, researchers and students, established voices and emerging ones. That diversity is not a courtesy of the invitation list. It is very strength of the Internet Governance Forum. The multi-stakeholder model is the conviction built on those who use internet, and it depends on the foundation of everything that will be discussed today. Rwanda believes in that model, and this forum is our national expression of it. This forum convenes at a defining moment in our national journey. Under the second national strategy for transformation, NST2, digital transformation is not treated as the standalone sector. It is a cross-cutting enabler of inclusive growth, of better and more accountable governance, and of sustainable development across every part of our economy and society. That strategy in turn serves a longer horizon of Vision of 2050 and Rwanda's ambition to build a knowledge-based digital empowered economy and society. The results of this deliberate approach are already visible in the daily lives of our citizens, in the uptake of digital identity and IREM services that have brought government to people's fingertips, and in the depth of mobile money penetration that has made digital finance an everyday reality for millions of Rwandans. These are not projections, they are delivered results, and they give us confidence that the vision before us is achievable. Rwanda IGF is also our bridge to the world. It is the national expression of a global process aligned with the mandate of the United Nations Secretary General and the Global Internet Governance Forum. What we discuss and recommend here carries Rwanda's voice into regional, continental, and global internet governance conversations. This year's theme, governing the internet in the age of intelligence, our shared responsibility, could not be more timely. And I want to translate it into a national framing. The governance of the internet and of the intelligent technologies now build upon it is a shared responsibility. It belongs to government, industry, civil society, academia, and citizens together. It is not and cannot be government's responsibility alone. Digital public infrastructure, such as digital identity, interoperable payments, and secure data exchange, are the invisible plumbing of a modern economy. Citizens not often see this infrastructure, but they feel it every time a service works seamlessly, a payment clears instantly, or their data moves securely between institutions. And precisely because it is invisible, it must be trusted to be used. Let me be clear on this point. Trust, security, and interoperability are prerequisites for the innovation, not obstacles to it. Digital public infrastructure only delivers value when citizens and businesses have confidence in it. A payment rail no one trusts it, moves no money, and an identity system no one trusts verifies no one. It is in this spirit that Rwanda recently adopted a legal framework for virtual assets. This framework is an evidence of a deliberate forward-running approach enabling fintech and blockchain innovations, welcoming responsible investment while proactively managing the financial and the cybersecurity risks these technologies can carry. The balance government seeks is clear, is to encourage responsible innovation while protecting consumers and safeguarding the integrity of our financial systems and preventing misuse, whether through fraud or money laundering. The law itself on paper is only the beginning. As this framework moves from legislation into practice, we call on the private sector and technical communities to work closely with us to test it, to strengthen it, and to make it work for the innovators and the citizens it is designed to serve. Allow me to talk about the big elephant in the room, AI. AI is not a distant prospect for Rwanda. It is already delivering public value. It supports citizens' verification on Irembo. It assists diagnosis and triage in our health systems, and it detects frauds in mobile money transaction. It personalizes learning for students in our classrooms, and these are the working systems serving Rwandans today. Our national AI policy, adopted back in 2023, gave us a strong and forward-looking foundation for responsible adoption. But policy alone is not the end state. We must name the governance gaps plainly. Reliability remains unclear when an AI system causes harm. Voluntary standards, however well designed, have limited enforceability. There is a real risk of fragmented adoption across institutions, each proceeding on its own terms, and in high impact sectors like health, finance, and public services, exposure without binding oversight is a risk we cannot leave unaddressed. Government's intent is therefore to progressively strengthen implementation and regulatory frameworks so that we can move from policy principles toward clearer accountability, stronger coordination, and practical safeguards. This will be done deliberately and in sequence, and we will communicate specific steps through the appropriate channels as they mature. But we do not intend to build this alone. We invite everyone, technical community, academia, industry, in this process. AI governance in Rwanda will be built with its stakeholders, not simply handed down to them. Your expertise, your evidence, and your challenge are welcome. Indeed, they are needed. We note and support the forum's recommendation to strengthen a dedicated coordination mechanism for multi-stakeholder governance. The dialogue must not live only on the day of the forum. A standing institutional backbone is is the one that sustains engagement between forums, and it is what turns an annual event into a continuous governance process. And we take particular pride of the investments this community is making in its own future. The Rwanda School on Internet Governance, which 100 participants, and the Rwanda Youth IGF engaging also more than 100 university participants. And these numbers tell us something important, that today's forum is not merely convening the current generation of governance actors, it is also deliberately building the next one. Inclusive governance means deliberately bringing youth voices into the room and into the discussions, not treating their participation as just a symbolic. The quality of our digital future will be measured in part by who was empowered to shape it. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to close by returning to where I began. Rwanda's digital future will be shaped by a shared responsibility. Government will continue to set direction and provide safeguards, and that is our duty. But trust cannot be legislated alone. Security cannot be procured alone. Innovation cannot be decreed. They are co-created by every stakeholders in this room. So the call to action today is simple and direct. We call you to engage fully in today's discussion, bring your ideas as well as your expertise. Translate these discussions into practical policy-relevant recommendations aligned with NST2, so that what is said here can be acted upon and carry Rwanda's perspective outward into the regional, continental, and global internet governance process where our voice deserves to be heard. On behalf of the Ministry of ICT and Innovation, I thank the organizers for convening us. I also thank our partners for standing with us, and I thank each one of you for the responsibility you're about to share. I wish you a productive and inspiring forum. Murakoze, and I thank you.
No, this speech doesn't deserve this round of applause. Let's make it big, louder. And thank you very much. I think the participants, especially the youth in the house, must have been very inspired by your very kind, generous, but very educative and very informative content of your keynote. At this point, we're just going to be having our first session. But before we do that, we have so I want to ask Geoffrey to get me a team of 3 people who bring the 4 chairs in the front. We are all going to walk at the front to have our main group picture. It's going to be right in front of this billboard, and we will have our 4 key speakers sit at the front. Then we'll have the first 3 rows behind them, and then the short ones, the tall ones will go to the So we're just going to have a measuring tape now. Each one of you is going to be measured, and we will tell you where you will stand by your height. Yeah, Robert, you're not part of them. Okay, so I will ask the team to come, and we have this done. And we shall all rise now and prepare to come to the front. We can now come to the front for the main picture. Please. We shall continue with our session today, and we are coming up with the first with our first session. I will ask those who still haven't taken their seat to take their seat, and I will invite our main moderator, who is going to take us through digital public infrastructure and virtual assets regulations, building a trusted digital economy for Rwanda. And I know Adeline is in the house, and she won't hold me responsible for anything. I'm not on the panel, and today we are not having our fight in this room. We shall have it elsewhere. Thank you very much. So I wish to invite Sharon Umunyana to come to the podium. She's our moderator, and she will call her team to the podium, and we start our first session. A round of applause for the first session, and we'll get the microphones at the... Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning. I was about to say good afternoon. Good morning to you all. Thank you for the welcome. Before I start, I wanted to ask, by a show of hands, who has here in the last week or so used mobile money to make a payment? Good. Who has collected a document through Irembo? That's it? Oh, that's a good number. And who has tapped on a bus to make a payment? Interesting. So what you just described is digital public infrastructure without saying it. And DPI is defined, we're defining DPI as the equivalent of roads. And as we are here in different capacities, different players in different fields, in digital public infrastructure, government builds and governs the roads, and government does not build the buses. And the value is shown in what people build on top of that. So today, there are three, we are going to be discussing on what does it take to ensure that digital public infrastructure, and today's discussion, we want to make sure that we understand digital public infrastructure and virtual assets regulation. So our session today, we are mainly going to focus on foundations of trusted digital financial ecosystem. And before I move forward to introduce the panelists, my name is Sharon Umunyana. I serve as the director for the Center for Digital Public Infrastructure at RISA. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our first panelists, Josephine Muchesha, Director of the National ID Agency. Please, let's put our hands together for Josephine. Our next panelist, I would like to welcome Ms. Adeline Mukashema, Manager of Payments System Supervision at the National Bank of Rwanda. A round of applause. Our next panelists, please put our hands together for Mr. Elijah Iragawa, Chief Technology Officer at MTN Rwanda. Since I have my panelists, I will just get closer to them and we begin our sessions. Great, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I will start by asking Josephine, when we talk about virtual assets, and financial inclusion or digital finance, it traces back to one question: whether the system can be certain, I am who I am, and we want to say, has Rwanda answered that question earlier than the most continents? So my question to you is, around the world, digital identity is increasingly recognized as a cornerstone for digital public infrastructure. How is Rwanda positioning its national digital system, identity system, to support digital services?
Yes, thank you so much, Sharon. Regarding this, the digital identity in Rwanda, we have, like, through the panels, even the discussions, the introductory remarks that were given, you see that for all the platforms or solutions that are being put in place, you need to ensure that the person seeking those services is indeed whom they say they are. So that's where the digital identity actually comes in. And so for Rwanda to fully ensure that the person, one, transacts securely, but also to ensure that everybody is taken, can transact online safely, our single digital identity was built under 4 pillars. So the first one is inclusion. Inclusion by ensuring that the digital identity is issued to everyone. You remember that the current identity was issued from 16 and above. But with the digital identity, we are issuing it from birth. So everybody, even the young, everyone will be included. But also, not only to Rwandans, but to everyone on the land. The identity we had was issued to foreign residents, meaning they were here for more than 6 months, or a refugee who had the status of refugee. But you know, normally when one comes, there's a period where they are asylum seekers, and then they become, after the assessment, they are even given the refugee status. But this asylum seeking process also takes time. And during that time, these people also need access to services. So the digital identity has gone beyond to ensure that everyone can be issued a digital identity. So we expanded the coverage to include literally everybody, meaning even a foreign resident or a foreign who is traveling to Rwanda for a very short time but need access to service will also be issued a digital identity. We are issuing it to asylum seekers, we are issuing it to immigrants, we are issuing it to stateless, because we still do have a few of them, especially in neighboring cities, that in districts that are neighboring countries, we always get such people who come, and like Rwanda and their country of origin does not recognize them anymore. So we also include the foundling. It's literally all the subcategories of non-Rwandans are included under the digital identity. The other one is the interoperability. Already from the building block, we ensure that everybody will be included. By that, we look at the platform. We look at the biometric, because now we are using a multimodal biometric system, where before we were using only fingerprints, now we are including the iris, 10 fingerprints, and the face. And the biometric before was used only for the duplication, but now we'll also use it for authentication. And this really changes completely how digital identity and identity can be consumed, and ensure that really the subject matter, like the person, can be able to tap and enjoy securely all these solutions and platforms that are put in place. The other is the layer where we have in the implementation of a digital identity, we have the AMBAS, the Automated Multimodal Biometric Authentication System, which provides API to everybody in the ecosystem, and depending on the market or their size. Because today, yes, we have the authentication layer, and we have the Government Enterprise Service Bus provided by RISA, where you can still authenticate citizens today through GSP. But when we are going with a digital identity, we are going even a step further, where even the startups, even the small companies that still need to authenticate and confirm the identity of the persons, the people they are transacting with, is done seamlessly and in the most secure manner. And then on the last, obviously, is the security and also abiding by the privacy, the data protection and privacy, where the data subject now will have to consent prior to sharing and also select what data they want to share. So our digital identity on the issuance level, we're also looking at inclusion, yes, at the collection, but at the issuance as well, because not everybody has a smartphone. So the digital identity will be issued in 3 formats. So we have the physical identity, we have the digital one with a mobile wallet, but we also have a token where for one-time transaction, you can use a token and you can use another one for another transaction. So those one-off transaction where you do not necessarily want to use your single digital identity number, which is our SDIN, you can use the token, which is like an alias for it. So this is to even bring the security at a higher level and ensure that the really putting the data subject at the driving seat of whom they are sharing their data with, and also which data they are going to give. So I think the last aspect on the digital identity is the digital family tree that we are building, which, because you see with the consent goes from 16 and above, and we are giving the digital identity from birth. So we need to ensure that those who are below 16, they still have somebody, either a parent or a legal guardian, who's going to consent on their behalf, because as we are moving towards the more of a digital world, we need to ensure that while we are doing it, we need to do it in the most secure manner. So those are the pillars that guide us in the implementation of our single digital identity.
Thank you very much, Josephine. Josephine I think you've given us way more than just identification. You've given us a way to exchange that data of identification. We've given us options of identification. And that, I think, answers the question to a good degree of how do we create trusted digital financial services. My next question is to Elijah. Elijah, Josephine just put it well and defined what the foundation of identity, how it is very well said. However, there are no digital services that reach anyone without a network to carry it. And in Africa, phone companies or telecom companies have somewhat done that before the banks did it. I want to know, the mobile network has become the backbone, surely, of digital financial services across Africa. What investments in telecommunication infrastructure are still needed to support Rwanda's next generation of digital financial services?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sharon. My name is Elijah Iragawa, and I am from MTN Rwanda. I'm the CTO. So I'm standing in for the CEO who apologized for not being able to join this forum, but he's been part of this forum in the past. Yeah. So as Sharon has said, mobile money, for example, mobile financial services, mobile money is, putting it in simple terms, is everywhere you go, you should have your money, right? On your handsets. That means on your mobile phones. Gone are the days whereby you needed to go to the bank and line up in order to be able to access your services. Or go to the ATM. You could have a card, an ATM card, but you had to go to the ATM machine in order to collect your money. But today, things have been simplified. As per the GSMA statistics, we have about over 2.1 billion mobile money accounts globally, and of which Africa consumes about 50% of the mobile money accounts. And biggest percentage of it being in East and West Africa, of which we are part of. So yeah, the backbone of this is the telecommunication industry, the telecommunication infrastructure, or mobile network operators. So at the back of this, we do a lot of investment in order to make sure that wherever you are, whether you're in Kigali, whether you're deep in Musanze, whether you're in Rubavu, you have access to your mobile money account so that you're able to make transactions, buy services, pay for services and products with your phone, irrespective of your location. So at the back of this, we have to roll out what we call network coverage, of which we invest a lot of money in broadband sites or towers that kind of beam our coverage so that your phone will be able to receive a signal. As MTN Rwanda, we've achieved more than 98% geographical coverage in regards to connectivity to ensure that all our subscribers have connectivity. This, of course, requires a lot of investment. A cost of one tower is, let's say, over 100,000 US dollars. So you can do the math. Today we have about 1,600 sites, more than 1,600 sites countrywide to ensure that the country is properly covered. Happy to see some of our regulators, Mr. Tony, and and the rest seated here. So we work together to make sure that the citizens have coverage. And among this is investment in towers. We have to invest in the fiber backbone because most of these towers are connected to the fiber backbone and the wireless transmissions as well, which also requires heavy investment. Part of the investment also involves investing in data centers. So we need to have reliable data centers. I believe Josephine and the Lembo team agree with me that data centers are a critical infrastructure, especially that they host these mobile financial services. Yeah, so that also calls for heavy investment. And at the back of this, there's also energy. As you know, in Africa, we have a challenge with energy, which powers our infrastructure. So we require heavy investment in energy, UPSs, generators, and also ensuring that we have high availability on our infrastructure. So imagine if someone asked who has done a mobile money transaction this week and all of us put up their hands. So imagine if we had an outage, yeah. Imagine if we had an outage on these mobile money services or network. Definitely it's a security breach because people will not be happy. And when people are not happy, they tend to create insecurity. So it's part of the security ecosystem as well. So, but on top of this, there are other layers and platforms. We are introducing AI-enabled solutions in networks to ensure that we have preventative maintenance because we are normally informed by these AI agents before a system goes down. So we do preventative maintenance without necessarily waiting for the site to go down, and we react. This applies to the networks, this applies to the data centers, this applies to the cybersecurity. Another aspect is cybersecurity. So it's a key aspect. With this, we've done an integration with the NID where we do verification of the users to make sure they are who they claim to be. So most of the frauds are done when verification is not properly done. So we've also applied AI agents when we are doing verification to ensure that if you come with an ID, it's really yours. If you come to this SIM swap, it's really you doing your own SIM swap. I'm not doing Josephine's SIM swap so that I swindle all the money on her mobile money account. So all that is an ecosystem that works in the back end. So for you make transactions on your phone, you don't know what's happening, but there's a lot of integrations that happen in the back end, and they have to be secure, they have to be available, they have to be reliable, and they have to be accessible wherever you are. So there's a lot of critical investment, and we thank the government through the regulator. We have partnerships where we have Universal Access Fund, where the regulators support us to reach areas. So you see, for us, we are a business. MTN is a business company. So we normally invest where we have return on investment. But together with the government, we've partnered and taken connectivity even where we are making losses to make sure that even that citizen, the few citizens who are there, have access to mobile financial services and telecommunication. So in brief, that is what I can say. There's a lot involved in the back that I can't go through on this panel, but in summary, I think, yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Elijah. You have provided connectivity. You are looking at expanding. Going into regulatory oversight and financial stability, allow me to ask you, Adeline, in terms of laying the foundation, Josephine has laid the road. Under the road, there's clear identification that the enabler of telecommunication has also built on top and is expanding and innovating. From a regulatory standpoint, I would like to come to the conversation of virtual assets. Rwanda has recently adopted a legal framework for virtual assets, yeah? From a payment system supervision perspective, I would like to know what are the biggest risks in financial stability, consumer protection, that in this framework aims to mitigate, and how will the enforcement and monitoring work in practice?
Thank you, Sharon. I'm Adeline from National Bank of Rwanda, and I know that in some country, National Bank of something or somewhere may be a private a bank, but here in Rwanda, it's a central bank. It's a regulator of those private banks, and you are supervising them. So Central Bank of Rwanda has the mandate of ensuring that financial stability, financial inclusion, but also consumer protection. So we put in place those regulations, but also we do supervision to achieve those purposes, those objectives. Sharon's question is about virtual assets. Those virtual assets, those are innovations that we are seeing on the Rwanda market, but also across the world. And we have that law since May this year. Some of you may think that we delayed, but it's not. It's not because as a regulator, we first do assessment. We do what's going around. We do our assessment, our analysis. We do our research, but also we monitor what's going on. We are talking about internet. We use the internet to get that real-time information, to get updated, but also to do that monitoring and take those informed decisions. So by having that virtual asset law, so we are bringing those used to be informal products into that licensed, supervised environment, so that you create that trust. You keep saying trust, confidence. So we created that trust by putting in place that enabling, that transparent environment for those innovations as well. So we as a BNR, as a regulator of the financial sector, we did not do alone. We did it with the collaboration of stakeholders, especially Capital Market Authority. I can see some representative of CMA here, and I hope they will talk about it into details. The virtual assets, so I can see the young people here, is that digital representation of value that can be traded or transferred for the purpose of just investment, but also payment. So that's where BNA comes in, because we are regulating and supervising payment system. That's a payment system that set off those rules, those institutions, those products that are put on market just to facilitate money circulation. So we also say that those virtual assets are not legal tender, meaning that they can't be used for payment for goods or services without BNR authorization. So authorization means those regulations that are implementing the law that is in place since May 2026. So we don't stop innovations. We don't stop innovations, but we are encouraging them, taking into account those benefits that we saw in the virtual assets. We have seen that they can be used for financial inclusion promotion, but also we keep hearing, and we are using as well, those cross-border payments which are expensive in terms of cost, but also expensive in terms of delays. So one of the benefits we have seen on virtual assets is that they can reduce those disadvantages, or just reduce the cost, but also make fast, rapid those cross-border payments, those remittance. You know that our population is relying on those cross-border remittance, those inbound, just for family support, for paying for those services that we need on daily basis. So those are the advantages we have seen, but also not only the benefits, but also risk. We assessed those risks. You were questioning about those risks that we found there and how to mitigate. So those virtual assets by nature, they are borderless. Borderless meaning that they are built on the internet. You can't stop internet. Everyone has access on the internet. And that borderless nature brings in those risks, especially money laundering. You have got money from those illicit or illegal channels, then you bring in that in the formal financial sector, those ones, and they create those huge risk to the economy, to the country, especially on those people that we are care of. But also because that anonymity also that comes with those virtual assets when they are not well regulated, so they come with that money laundering, yes, but also those scams. I know that just in like last year or some years ago, you have seen those scams that came with those virtual assets. So if they are not regulated, so we are bringing those risks on our market. So that's why we came together with Capital Market Authority, which is in charge of regulating the investment schemes, and we thought that instead of just keeping those informal products, informal services that bring those risks on our market, better bring them under the regulated umbrella, the regulated environment, and you have a visibility on what you are doing. I can see here young people, those are innovators, those are potential innovators. They are bringing new products, new business model. My goodness, there are so many. And we don't want those ideas, those investments just flowing from the country. We want them to keep them here and serve the economy. So we have a data. We also facilitate innovations. We allow the innovators to test their product before they bring them on market, because we have what we call regulatory sandbox in that law. We are yet to have in place implementing regulations, but it's an ongoing work. We are collaborating with the key stakeholders to have that collaboration framework, and also have those laws and regulation and directive just to facilitate you to bring those innovations and help us to achieve those objectives that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you. While I still have you, you mentioned that as a regulator, you're quite worried about risk. And we know that regulator, you're often expected to balance caution and innovation. As central bank, how are you thinking about supervising the interface between traditional payments and virtual asset platforms? And could you also tell us how do you plan on, what role do you see multi-stakeholders playing from private sector to NIDA, to MTN, to fintechs, how private innovators, how do you plan on keeping both safe and dynamic?
Thank you. Yes, I talked about those business models. Business model comes with those integrations between infrastructure, between the services that are being offered. So we usually do that. We have relevant laws and regulation governing those integrations, and we keep doing that in the case virtual assets are brought on market. So we think that when you integrate, you bring on other layer of risk. You bring in new risk. It's an additional what we call failure point. So if they are not done very well with a clear guideline, with clear guidance, so they bring those risks as well to the market, to the participants, but also to the service users. So the way we manage we mitigate those risks as a regulator. We do have those regulations, but also we do supervision. In doing supervision, we start by approval. So those integrations are done by the institution that we supervise, because if you don't supervise them, so they start from the licensing point, and once they are being licensed, so they request for approval for those integrations. We request for providing like the agreement. The first of all, it's the agreement. So we need to know that they have the clear governance, the roles and responsibility are well clear and well shared as well, and the liability as well. Because when things don't go well, we look at those signatories, those people who are in agreement. So, but also we need to see responsibility that comes with service provision, that comes with consumer protection, data privacy. How are you going to protect the customer data? So we also need to see how is it, because those digital financial services comes with IT. They are built on the IT infrastructure. How is it the security? How is the dispute resolution? How are you going to handle the complaints of customers? How are you going to manage the incident? For example, if something goes wrong, how are you going to communicate? So things like that, especially consumer protection, governance, operations comes with those IT security and everything. So we need to have those policies and procedures, but also we do follow up, we do monitoring, daily monitoring, we do that, and we also request them to report, especially on a monthly basis, but also we do visit them on site to check if they are complying with the existing laws and regulations, but also those policies and the procedures that have been approved during licensing or approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. And before I move on to my next panelist, I know in the audience, some few people may have questions, so we'll be able to take 1 or 2 questions should the time permit. So please prepare if you have any questions. Josephine, I would like to hear how the National ID Agency is collaborating with financial regulators and private sector to ensure digital ID can be securely, reliable, and reliably leveraged for virtual asset onboarding without becoming a single point of failure service.
Thank you. So when we started the digital identity journey, we did an assessment and we did a feasibility study. And this was also done, it was a multi-sectoral collaborative work where we included the financial sector, but also service providers and government institutions, so that we could really hear their pain points. So even So we had it all the way from the assessment, but even during implementation, we have a technical committee, and in the technical committee, we also include the regulators, but also the operators, so that we ensure that as we move along towards from the current identity to the single digital identity, we move along with them, and we ensure that the platforms and their systems, the way they were working, will also be seamless as we go toward the digital identity. So yes, we need to ensure that security is put in front, but also the user experience is not penalized through that. Because sometimes you focus so much on security, but then it becomes a cumbersome or a point of a friction. So yeah, on the availability of the system, we are bringing that layer I informed you about, the AMBAS layer, but on the infrastructure layer, we are relying on the government enterprise service bus. And even today, as she informed, even the startups or the companies that are building their systems, we have a testing environment where before they even get licensed, they first consume the API, they do the test, they see if really that idea they have can practically work. And after that, when they get the regulators go ahead, then now we can put them in production. So this seamless manner of working will also continue with the digital identity. The other thing is we are going to soon avail our AMBAS testing environment. This is for everybody here in the audience. And we really encourage you to come and start testing your solutions so that when we go into the single digital identity and we fully launched it, you can also now start thinking how your solution or your platform will seamlessly integrate, and will also ensure that you are not going to disrupt the way services were done. Because what we are looking at today with the digital identity is really to make it secure, but also seamless and easy, both for the provider, but also for the person seeking the service.
Elijah, Josephine has set a way private sector can securely get digital identity and for the users and define the user experience. Now, when we talk about virtual assets, there is a very alarm in people's minds on risk and security. And telecom operators sit at a unique choke point for both access and risk. For instance, SIM-based fraud, there is unregistered wallets, there's cross-border transfers. My question to you, what role should telecos play in the KYC, eKYC and cybersecurity layer of Rwanda's emerging virtual asset ecosystem?
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. I think Josephine has mentioned it. Identity is a very key part of the ecosystem, especially with the mobile financial services. So as MTN or as telcos in general, we play a very key role in ensuring that we verify identity of users through integration with the NID. So we basically have an integration point with the national ID database, whereby if a client claims that she is Sharon, so our system is able to validate that through different methods for digital identity. And then when it comes to SIM swap verification, it's also a very key point which is used for fraud, basically in regards to digital financial services. So when you come to do a SIM swap, there are some measures that we take. First of all, we validate your identity through integration with the NID. And secondly, we take some cooling off measures. For example, if your account is connected to, your mobile account is connected to Equity Bank or BK, so we freeze, it's called a cool-off period, so we freeze that transaction for a period of 72 hours. So within that 72 hours, on top of freezing that account, we notify the customer. So we send an SMS to your number that there's a SIM swap that has been done. And within those 72 hours, it gives a chance to the client or to the subscriber to notice that someone did a SIM swap, and they report to our agency, and then we are able to block that account and disable any transactions that may lead to fraud. But besides all those measures, people normally find ways of bypassing those measures, mainly by through collaborations and all that. But we work with our stakeholders. I see the police here. We work with our stakeholders, the police and the regulator, to make sure that we tackle these. And on top of it, most importantly is awareness. So we do a lot of awareness with our customers and tell them if someone calls you and they request for your PIN, for any information, please be cautious. If they request you for your PIN number, if they request you to send a message, if they request you for money, please think twice before you activate anything on your phone. So besides that, we have, of course, different layers of cybersecurity platform on the perimeter for our mobile money platforms, which look at authorization, authentication, and all those measures to make sure that we are not hacked and money is frauded. Thank you.
Thank you, Elijah. Before I move on to my last question for all my panelists, I would like to give the audience a chance to ask any question you may have. So by a show of hands, does anyone have any question? Yes, we have one person. Anyone else? Is there a microphone we can extend? We have one person. Please give us your name and your question quickly.
Okay, thank you, and hello everyone. My name is Prince Gatete. I'm a student from UNIRAC. I'm a software engineering student at UNIRAC. My question is for Mr. Elijah. As is my case, last month I was moved from Kigali to Eastern Province, and I was spending there like three days. And the problem I get, my 10 different friends was told me that during those days I was spent there, they was not able to reach on my line. Just, I would think that like when you switch a place, your phone takes like 5 or 7 days without adapting to that place networks. I don't know if you are aware of that problem, and you was talking about you are trying to take a coverage of entire country so that all the citizens in the country can reach the internet or be connected. So if you are aware of that problem, you can tell us what can you do for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gatete. I'll answer you. First of all, I want to apologize for the loss of the network when you traveled. Unfortunately, I'm not aware of that case, but yes, it happens. So yes, we are every day, coverage improvement is an ongoing process. So today we have about 98% coverage countrywide and maybe 96% population, but it's an improvement journey that we've started, and we keep on through customer engagement, like engaging you, we get to know where we have weaknesses, and we improve coverage, and also through our usual drive test assessments that we do annually in partnership with the regulator, we work towards improving our coverage. But maybe after this session, I'll get your contacts, and maybe you pinpoint that particular location so that we work on improving the coverage in that place. There are different factors that could have caused your network to lose coverage. Sometimes we have outage on our serving sites towards that location, maybe due to power. or different factors, fiber cuts, and sometimes it's also an in-building issue. Maybe the particular location where you are coverage, we have a very unique, beautiful country, which is hilly, which is a beauty, but again, it comes also with challenges. We normally have some black spots, black points, where coverage doesn't reach. But with different feedback from our customers, we keep on improving. So yeah, I'll definitely get your contacts and you give me more details about that location to make sure that we improve it even for the people who live there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elijah. As we close off our session, our session was to understand the foundation of trusted digital financial ecosystem. And the biggest foundation is identity, and it has been solved. Telecommunication companies have to 98% achieved connectivity and still going. And you have put services and measures in place to make sure that risk is catered for virtual assets. And as a regulator, the central bank has set the regulation and is still improving on how to innovate with an adoption of virtual assets. In just 30 seconds, I would like to hear from you. In your respective seats, if you had to name one shared responsibility, something government, private sector, citizens must all hold together to make Rwanda's digital financial ecosystem trustworthy, what would it be?
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. That one thing that I would request all the stakeholders to work together to ensure that digital financial services achieved is number one, smartphone penetration. So we need to work together as stakeholders to ensure that we have a good percentage of smartphone penetration countrywide. Today, the PS spoke about sunsetting legacy technologies. For example, 2G, 3G. So as we plan to as we have a very ambitious dream of sunsetting 2G, 3G, we need to ensure that smartphone penetration is at least at a good percentage, like above 80%. Today, smartphone penetration, maybe RISA would guide, we are less than 50% of smartphone penetration. And we are planning to sunset 3G next year in June. So how realistic is this? It's a very ambitious vision, but we need to work together to make sure that we achieve this vision. With smartphone penetration, it will contribute to the security of the mobile financial services, in that it will promote the use of mobile application instead of using USSD. So today, most of the digital financial services are through USSD, which is not very secure. But with the mobile smartphone penetration, we shall be able to embark on mobile applications which are more secure transaction to ensure that the citizen builds trust in the mobile financial services through a secure and accessible system. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I think it will be digital literacy. The government has put a lot of resources to really enhance digital literacy to everybody, because as even this, the theme of this, everybody, it is our shared responsibility. So if the private sector, the government, everybody is coming and moving towards the digital world, we need to move all of us and we do not leave anybody behind. So encouraging everybody to really embrace digital literacy.
Thank you. So, to me, one that shared responsibility should be to build the trust through collaboration. So the way you are sitting here, I think it's intentional. Regulator government should put in place those clear guidelines, clear regulations, just to achieve the objective. But also the private sector should have that stable infrastructure. We are talking about network. Network is very key when we talk about the digital financial services, but also other infrastructure. You are talking about ID. ID is very key for know your customer, just to mitigate against that money laundering and those fraud and scams in financial services. So everyone, even citizens, as users, financial services users, should be aware of that and be accountable for those things that are happening, but also continue using those digital financial services. So together we can achieve those purpose, those objectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our shared responsibility from our panelists is making sure that we are together sharing this smartphone penetration burden, all of us, digital literacy, and building collaboration through all the sectors. Please help me and put our hands together to thank our panelists. Thank you so much, and I hope you found it as fruitful as me. Thank you. I'll kindly ask you to just step forward for a picture, and as I hand over to Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another very big round of applause for a very energetic discussion here. We had many questions, but unfortunately, due to the constraint of time, we couldn't address all of them. But we have had some of them written down. So to those on the panel, we will make sure that you have those ones answered and emailed to the respective individuals who asked. So thank you very much. We are coming to the second session of our discussions today, and our second session is going to digest and break down in detail the regulation, innovation, and digital asset opportunities. What we've just heard were about the process on licensing and putting in place regulations. But now we need to explore deeply about digital assets. How do we tokenize? How do we remit monies between jurisdictions? How do we on-ramp? How do we off-ramp? How do we understand the context of the fiat models that we have when we on-ramp or off-ramp? All these are discussions that are just going to come through. And I would like now to invite Mr. Haguma Norbert, who's going to be our moderator, to come and call on the stage his participants.
Yes, good morning, everyone. It's actually noon. So it's an honor to be here on this panel and for moderating the next session. I want to start by thanking the previous panel. It was a very informative session. Now for the next session, I would like to invite the panelists, Mrs. Jean-Pauline Gashumba, Director General of Financial Intelligence Center, Mrs. Everline Angeyo Amwai, Country Manager and Growth Lead at Yellow Card, and finally, Mr. Jérôme Dayambaje, Head of Marketing Infrastructure and FinTech Innovation at Capital Market Authority, Rwanda. Yes, another round of applause for our panel. Thank you. So the objective of this session is really to explore Rwanda's emerging regulatory framework for virtual asset and how it can foster innovation while protecting consumers and preserving financial integrity. Of course, we're going to touch on the subject of blockchain, fintech, and other upcoming innovations. So I would like to look first at the central question before us, which is how can Rwanda become a trusted regional leader in digital assets and blockchain innovation while ensuring security, financial stability, and responsible governance? So for this panel, I would like to approach this in three tracks. I want to start first maybe with the round about the intent so that everybody is on the same page. So I would like to start with Mrs. Gashumba, FIC. I want to understand what are the priorities for integrity. What makes good regulation and what are your objectives? What exactly are you trying to achieve with this new regulation around virtual asset? Thank you.
Thank you very much, moderator. Good morning to you all. Allow me to use this opportunity to appreciate the lecturer for having invited the FIC to be part of this forum. It's our first time to attend this forum, but I can say that it's a good opportunity for us to enjoy the discussions, but also to contribute to the discussions as well. So starting with the question, I would start by saying, what is virtual asset? What is digital asset? Those are the two words. They are somehow related but different. Because in a big sense, I can say that all virtual assets are digital assets. But all digital assets are not virtual assets. So I think you understand what I mean here. So digitally, things cannot operate without internet. That's why I think we are here under this forum. So the internet is a drive of virtual asset. So as the previous panelist indicated, virtual asset is a digital representation of a value that can be traded, that can be transferred, and can even be used for investment and payment. You see, the virtual asset can be used for many things. And in this developing world, you see that technology is in advance. So that the system, financial system also follows the same path. That's why we have now digital virtual asset. The virtual asset, if I can say that it has been there for a long time. It has been used by different youth here using internet. And what does it require to use this virtual asset? What you need is to create what we call the crypto, the wallet. You need a wallet. And how the virtual asset works, you use the cryptocurrencies. And what you need is just internet, and then you go there, you use the blockchains. So why this is an emerging issue in this world? It is an emerging because now we are like migrating from the fiat things to use the virtual, because that virtual asset is like safe for people who are using it due to its nature, anonymous. It's also fast and borderless, different from banks, different from other financial institutions. So people are seeing opportunities in using the virtual asset. That's why it's emerging. And that virtual asset sector is evolving, is emerging. But as it has goods, it has also the risk. When not regulated, it can be misused by criminals. it can be used to launder dirty money. And it can be used by criminals, especially terrorists, to fund their activities. So that's why it has goods, but there are risks associated to it. I think that's why all over the world, the countries are putting in place mechanisms to control the virtual asset, to ensure that the sector is profitable, but also the sector is protected. Because who are affected when the system is not protected? They are consumers, they are investors. So due to risk associated, countries are trying to regulate or to control the sector. Our country has not, was not left behind. That's why in May 2026, a new law was developed and published. And that law regulates the virtual asset businesses. Under this law, there are different things. I think the capital market will talk about it. But if I can say in a simple word, the country is developing, and technologically we have to accept the virtual asset. But accepting the virtual asset does not mean that we are just going there. We have to control to make sure that consumers are protected, the financial integrity is protected, because when the sector is regulated, even though the criminals can still want to use it, there are ways of controlling and managing. So the law provided for a number of things, who can be licensed to do that, and what is accepted and what is not accepted in my country. So this law comes in the real time, and I can say that we can profit it, but we must ensure that we are not misusing it for criminal purpose. So as the theme indicates, it's our shared responsibility. Yes, this is an opportunity for growing. This is an opportunity for development. This is an opportunity open to everyone. But it's our shared responsibility to protect this sector by complying with international standards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jean-Pauline, thank you so much for your thoughts. And you're setting up this discussion very well. So I ask about your intent and why the center is interested in regulating. I think you made a very good argument that these new technologies are useful, both in good hands and bad hands, and you want to ensure that they don't get into the wrong hands. And I think I'm going to come back in a bit to you to talk about the standards, especially you mentioned the kind of global initiatives around this and where Rwanda stands. But in the meantime, I want to go to Jerome from the Capital Markets Authority. You did mention that the Virtual Asset Service Providers Law has come out in May of this year. This was a particularly exciting piece of law for me personally, as the chairman of Rwanda Blockchain Association, and having lobbied and pushed for such a law for many years, more than close to 10 years actually. And I can tell you that one of the very first blockchain events in Rwanda happened in this very room on the sidelines of Smart Africa in 2018, so 8 years ago in this very room. And in those days, we were speaking about blockchain as an innovation, as an exciting technology. But for the 10 years that the Rwandan blockchain community has been active, I can say that the majority of the time it has been in an unregulated environment. It was neither fully banned nor allowed. It was unregulated, which is a very difficult position to be in because many things are not really possible to do. So I want to ask you, Jerome, about about the new regulation and the Capital Markets Authority. What was your intent when you decided to move from unregulated to regulated, to divide the regulatory approach between capital markets and central bank, and who did this and that? As I said, in this first part, I want to understand what was your intent as a regulator.
Thank you so much, Norbert. Good afternoon. As I said, my name is Jérôme Ndayambaje. I work with the Capital Markets Authority. I know my CEO was to be here, but he had other engagements and he sent me here. So I think before I go to straight to the questions, it's very important that we really tell you about a bit of the journey of the virtual assets in Rwanda. Like many other jurisdictions across the world, the virtual assets, which initially we started saying the cryptocurrency, it actually changed names: cryptocurrency, crypto assets, digital assets, as DG has said, virtual assets. I don't know the next name, but today we're speaking about virtual assets. So it has a bit of a history, and I think it starts from the global financial crisis back in 2007 or 8, where the first crypto was launched, I think, in 2009. And from there, like any other jurisdiction, people started looking at how do we manage this kind of innovations. So until we recently got different standards, I'm sure DG is going to speak about one of them. But I could speak about the Financial Stability Board. They had some of recommendation about jurisdictions when you come and you want to come up with the virtual assets regulation. I also want to speak about recommendation from IOSCO. The IOSCO is an international organization on securities regulators. And of course, we have FATF, which I think, especially in Rwanda, we are coming up with this regulation to really comply with the FATF. And the intent, as Norbert has said, I know more than 50% of the motivation behind Rwanda coming with the virtual assets law, I think is because of recommendation of FATF. DG is going to speak more. So how did that one started? Back in 2 years, I think that's when the same standard recommended Rwanda, or recommended all the jurisdiction to come up with the legal framework. First of all, you do the risk assessment to see the opportunities and challenges. There were 3 options. Either countries could regulate the virtual asset, countries could ban the virtual asset, or countries could keep the status quo. As Norbert has said, you just leave the way it is, you don't regulate, you don't ban, and you leave it there. So after the risk assessment, Rwanda has decided to take one approach, which is regulating the virtual asset. So one of the questions we asked here, including our policymakers, was to ask who is going to be the regulator of this new sector. So the policy recommendation were based still on the standards. One of the standards, I think, is Financial Stability Board standard, and IOSCO. They encourage to use the principle of same activity, same regulation, and same risk. So that to say, you can't say the virtual asset is going to be regulated maybe by the people who are regulating the airline or what. Virtual asset can be regulated by any other, but virtual asset is going to be regulated by financial sector regulators. So this one is very important. After now deciding who is going to regulate virtual assets, even though it is financial regulators, who is going to be the main regulator among the financial regulators? So again, the policy was decided that the Capital Markets Authority is going to be the main regulator of the virtual asset in close collaboration with the central bank and FIC. Central bank mainly on the financial stability, monetary sovereignty, and all these interconnectedness between the two ecosystems. Now we have the virtual asset ecosystem, we have the traditional financial ecosystem. So this interconnectedness, that's where the central bank is going to support mainly. But the overall regulator is the Capital Markets Authority. So that the background, I think, is very important for the audience to understand that. So the intent, first of all, was to, I think it was like 5 objectives that made Rwanda to come up with the legal framework for virtual assets. One was to mitigate the risks associated with money laundering. And I know maybe DG is going to elaborate more, where the mutual evaluation that took place 2 years back recommended Rwanda to take a decision about the virtual assets. And on specific recommendation 15, which is about new technologies and specific on virtual assets, they recommend to really, we didn't comply because we don't have the legal framework. So that was one. 2 was to protect our investors. You see, as we, investors and consumers, and I think it's very important to understand the difference between consumers and investors. The consumers just consume the service, financial service, but investors put in their money as they expect some returns. So the law comes to protect investors and consumers. That's number 2. And number 3 is to put the integrity on the market, where we see these scammers, people are coming with fake coin and everything. So the law comes to clear everything regarding that kind of money practices to really have market integrity. And I think number 4 is about financial stability. However much we want to allow the virtual asset to come in Rwanda, but we are mindful about the traditional finance. If this spillover from virtual asset ecosystem cannot increase maybe the capital flight and everything, so that you find our financial system is really there are systemic risks. So we want to curb that. And finally, which is very important, is to really support the innovation. We have the fintech strategy that really support the financial and any other innovation in that ecosystem. So those are the objectives, and I think maybe you can discuss further, but and I'm very happy this is the first panel on the virtual asset. So to see, maybe to congratulate the country, especially the policymakers who really found it is necessary to come up with the virtual assets. We know initially we had to see the notices from the central bank just for cautions of the investors and public not engage in this business. But now we are bold enough to start engaging and discuss about virtual assets. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jerome. So I think we are getting a live lesson on virtual assets and digital assets. Are you following? Is it interesting? Then I want to ask you, and I want to copy my previous colleague. How many of you have ever owned a virtual asset? Please raise your hand. How many of you have ever owned a digital asset? Raise your hand. Okay, so I think the lessons are still halfway, because in fact, I think everybody here has owned a virtual or a digital asset of some sort. I think even when you look at something like mobile money, in effect is a form of virtual asset, is a form of digital asset, is just a bit different. So with that in mind, I want to bring on board Everlyn, who's the country manager and growth lead for Yellow Card Tanzania and Rwanda. And of course, as you heard, the first part, I want to really dig into the intent. So you, as a business, Yellow Card, one of the prominent virtual asset or digital asset companies on the continent, I think our chair briefly mentioned the issue of on-ramp and off-ramp. And I think that is really the core of what Yellow Card is. So I want to ask you as well, from the point of view of industry and private sector, how do you view Rwanda's decision to establish a regulatory framework? And what is, maybe also share a bit with us, what was the intent behind the formation, the creation of Yellow Card and your entry into the Rwandan market? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Norbert, and I'm very happy to be here. I manage Yellow Card. based in Tanzania, but also I do operate from here. And of course, I would like to take this opportunity as well to give my gratitude to the government of Rwanda and also to the regulator and other stakeholders that are actually in this house. It's been a long journey when you talk about the virtual assets. And why Yellow Card came into place, we saw there was challenges that were being experienced by many businesses and individuals when it comes to making global payments and global remittances. So we saw the gap and we saw the challenges that come into cost, pricing when it comes to channeling global payments. But at the same time, also, the process itself is quite cumbersome, coupled by documentation that you have to come along with it to just support a single transaction. So we saw the gap, and of course, there had been a bit of a challenge, of course, in many economies on the foreign exchange currency shortage. And of course, as a business, as Yellow Card, we come in and we power businesses through extension of the stablecoin infrastructure to power global payments. So that was the main intent of why we came in. We came to solve problems that are actually experienced by the African businesses in Africa, because we are living in a very competitive digital era where business has become a global space and it's very competitive. So how do we match with this competition? How do we tap the global businesses? By first and foremost is to ensure there's a clear end-to-end flow of funds from the person who is actually making the order to the person who is actually the recipient through that provision of that particular service. So with the advent of the virtual asset regulations 2026, for us it was a blessing, to be very honest. For the longest time, we've been operating in an era where people think or associating virtual assets as sort of a myth, money laundering, association, you know, it's where you clean your money. In Kenya, they say it's wash, right? But in reality, when you look at it, where the real intent came about, it's clearly to provide a clear-cut, end-to-end flow of transaction powering global payments in a single and secured manner. So when the virtual asset came in place in 2026, for us, we saw it as an opportunity where now it legitimizes how we operate as a business, as a company, and how we can even be able to scale our operations within the framework and the guidelines that have been provided by the government and also by the regulator. And we appreciate that's the steps taken, and we'll be more than happy, of course, to engage even further in making sure that we are able to also share our part of challenges, because in any business, of course, there will always be challenges that also we do face. So, and I think I heard my colleague from the identification, right? It is very critical because you need to know whom you're dealing with. So it's a clear collaborative engagement that needs to take place. And of course, we appreciate that fact. And for us, the regulation came into place at a very timely manner where we can now operate in a clear-cut, open environment that is fully legitimized and fully recognized now. It's no longer in the past. And the other aspect now is we've all talked about trust. And this is where we are. We are coming in as Yellow Card, or even other stakeholders or other service providers that are coming into place. We are here because we want to support the business to grow and also to be able to grow their margins. So how do we do that? We have to build that trust with our customers, and it emanates from their formation and the formulation of this regulation as the foundation of enabling that safe environment to do engagement and also to build innovative services that can serve the need for our clients in the market.
Thank you very much, Evelyn. That was really well put and clear. I think that when it comes to virtual assets, at least one of my personal inspiration and intent from the beginning was that I think that Africa, I sincerely think that Satoshi Nakamoto, who invented Bitcoin and other pioneers, they really did have Africa in mind. And the reason I think that is because of the infrastructure that you need to remove in developed countries in order for blockchain and crypto to thrive, whereas in Africa, the adoption has been overwhelming. In fact, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Evelyn, but in terms of adoption and use, Africa is leading the world in crypto and blockchain. Is that correct?
Absolutely, 100%.
Why do you think that is?
First and foremost is because of how traditionally how we've been able to be doing business as usual. And it's no longer the case. You are an exporter or an importer, and you're trying to scale your business into China. How do you tap the China market? How do you are able to facilitate that payment? How do you do that currency exchange? That's why it's very critical for us. I say African, for me, I look African as an opportunity on its own. Individually, as a business for the stablecoin infrastructure, but also individually now, as even if today I'm an entrepreneur, I look at it as a way where I can leverage on that infrastructure and be able to provide a service that is robust, and also creating that customer satisfaction because I've been able to get my product timely, and also being able to leverage on my margins because there's an FX aspect that has to come into play.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think it's very clear. And for the second round, and I want this to be a little bit faster than the previous one, even though the subject is quite interesting, but we don't have that much time. I would like to talk about the local context and the balance between investor protection and consumer protection. And I want to start with Jean-Pauline. I think you mentioned that the FATF was really the basis upon which we built our own regulation. And I want to understand how do you balance that international standard requirement with the local reality? And in the same vein, I want a follow-up or a continuation, maybe from Jérôme, on the issue of balancing consumer versus investor interest. Thank you. So, please.
Thank you very much, moderator. For this specific question, I would say that yes, FATF is a financial action task force. It's an intergovernmental organization. It's composed by different countries. And that forum has put in place what we call 40 recommendations. When you see the words recommendation, you can think that you can do it or not because it's a recommendation. But the reality is that they are not recommendations, they are standards, international standards. They are requirements. If you don't comply with them, you may face sanctions. A country may face sanctions. So under FATF 40 recommendations, there is a specific recommendation 15 talking about new technologies. Under that standard, there are a number of requirements. A country is required to assess, understand the money laundering, terrorist financing associated to new development, new business practices, including these new technologies and the new delivery chain. And not only a country is required, but also a financial institution is required to conduct that assessment. And after assessing and knowing, understanding the risk associated to that product, you have to put in place mitigating actions. That is number 2. You assess, you understand, then you put in place mitigating mechanisms. And another requirement is a country is required to regulate, to license, or register. So if you don't license, at least you register. And you understand that is tricky. How can you register someone who is working without being licensed? Even those operating under that sector, they cannot make them known because they don't want, they are not operating legally because they are not licensed and the country is not allowing. That is tricky, the second one. So a country is required to do so, and that's what we did. After conducting a national risk assessment and understanding the risk associated to virtual assets in our country, the country adopted 2 licenses to regulate it. That's when this law came in. It's just to comply with that requirement. So we also have another law, the Rwanda law, anti-money laundering and counter-financing terrorism. It's also about the preventive mechanisms. So those ones licensed to conduct virtual asset, they have requirements. They have obligation to comply with. So those obligations include the knowing your customer due diligence.
KYC.
You have to know your customer. And how do you know your customer? That's when you can use the ID systems and other systems that are locally developed, even outside the country. You have to know your customer, and you have to verify the identity before you do business with that customer. And another important requirement is you have to keep records of your customer to make sure that when it's needed by, for example, investigators, prosecutors, that information can be accessible from the virtual asset service provider. But there is another big requirement. The requirements are not only on the country or financial institution, but also to the regulator, that is capital market in this case. You have to make sure that the market is protected, because the entry market requirement, you have to know who is going to enter the market. So meaning that even though you can be willing to register or to be licensed in this sector, you have to be a clean person. And you have to, the capital market as a regulator, before licensing, has also to conduct due diligence to ensure that those ones coming in the market are not criminals or associated to criminals. So the country is complying with international standards because we conducted the assessment and we issued the laws, and the capital market is now required to conduct supervision. Supervision is you go to those licensed and you make sure that they are complying with international standards. And when we see the Rwanda realities, so as the previous speaker said, there is what we call a sandbox. That sandbox will also be used to consider how those things are operating in our context as a country. And considering also the reality of our country. So for payment, normally when you say virtual asset, it can be used for investment, payment, trading, and different things. But when it comes to our reality, it cannot be used for payment. It is prohibited. However, when you have authorization from the central bank, you can proceed. I think that one was used to make sure that we are considering the country reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair.
Unfortunately, due to time constraint, we have one of our very key speakers on the second session who will be leaving us shortly, and we thought that we could give the audience an opportunity to listen to him as well.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I know you still had many questions, but we'll have to cut this session short. I'm not being impolite, you know, we are friends, you know, we are very good people together, but time is completely against us, and I will ask you to honor our other speakers to be able to have also a very short time to do that. But
Understood.
you can have time to wind up.
Give me 1 minute to conclude,
Thank
and
you.
then we continue. And then I will give you the space. So, unfortunately, we are running out of time. We actually ran out of time, and I wanted to push a little bit on the opportunities. Maybe we'll have another chance to pursue that in the future. But I think this was quite an educative and insightful session to understand the background and the intent and where we are in terms of regulating virtual assets. I think that the opportunity in virtual assets is really related to economic inclusion. I know that in Africa, in many countries, we've been very much focused on financial inclusion, which basically means giving people access to wallets, whether it is a bank, it is mobile money, and it is other things. And I think that this next stage of virtual assets is going to move from financial inclusion to economic inclusion too. That means we need now to move from just people having access to wallet to people trading and buying goods. So one of the things that I personally am looking forward to is the tokenization of assets. For example, there is already a number of initiatives, including my own company, which are working towards tokenizing, for example, taxis, whether motor or cars, and the concept of fractional ownership, which is really, I think, bringing the benefits of the capital markets to the wider audience. And I think that is the future for Africa. So it's unfortunate that we have to close this so quickly. So I'm just gonna ask, starting from Jerome, 30 seconds each one of you for a last statement before we close. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Norbert. What I want to say in the 30 seconds, number one, we have a good law. The law is benchmarked with international standards. At least I said 3. The law is benchmarked with the global best practices, especially global regulations, MICA, VARA, and many others. The law is benchmarked with the realities here local, because we did consultation across, and the law is benchmarked with the regional other legal framework. That is 1. 2, the law is divided into 2 parts. The law takes care of issuers of virtual assets, and the law takes care of virtual asset service providers. And 3, the virtual assets are into 3 categories. 1, we call it unbacked virtual assets. This is a traditional cryptocurrency. Number 2, these are stable coin. These are backed by either fiat currency or other assets. And 3 is what Norbert is saying, the tokenization of real world assets, which is very important. So what I would say in my last 1 second is that to make sure this framework in Rwanda, Rwandan benefits, and even the ecosystem players, we need awareness, because it's a sector that is not known today. And we put it into a layman language so people can understand. And 2 is collaboration, especially between the stakeholders. Thank you so much.
Okay. On my side, I'll put it in a very 2 simple words. Let's embrace innovation and digital literacy. And of course, today I pose a challenge to all of us in this room. Let's take the initiative to understand, to educate, and collaborate with the relevant stakeholder to make the real change that actually affects the African business economy.
Thank you.
What I would say is that virtual assets are here to stay, and they are good opportunity. Please grab it, but it's a shared responsibility to protect and maintain our financial integrity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, please, a round of applause. I think it's quite telling when a regulator tells you embrace this technology. First time hearing it. Thank you. But I want to close with these 2 words in Kinyarwanda. Maybe before I do, let me ask, does anybody know how to say blockchain technology in Kinyarwanda? Okay, then let me teach you. It's called ikoranabuhanga ndandizwa bwemeranywe. That is from Rwanda Academy of Languages, I believe. It's a new technology dictionary. I have it. If you want it, just reach out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A round of applause. Don't leave the stage before they take that very big picture. Please, your panel, the cameramen are there to take the big. See, this is a mistake when you get people who have so much knowledge and give them 30 minutes. You know, we're supposed to be having this panel here for a whole day. because the intensity and the magnitude and the depth of their knowledge is so big that we wouldn't consume so much in just 30 minutes. So thank you very much for Norbert's panel. It was very intense. It was very nice. I hope Evelyn won't go back and report to me that I took her time because she employs me. Thank you very much. We are having one other panel, which is going to be equally educational, and I don't want to be the one standing between you and that exciting panel. It's on artificial intelligence, governance, and accountability in Rwanda, and we couldn't have a better moderator to do this than Ale Ndaishimiye, and he is going to be calling upon his team.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this last session of today's overarching theme of governing internet in the age of intelligence, our shared responsibility. I know you have been here since 9 and lunch is just around the corner, so I'll not be the one stopping you to go for your lunch today, so we'll make this one quick. For those that were meeting for the first time, my name is Ale Ndaishimiye, and I work at the intersection of AI policy, regulation, strategy, AI development, and focus my everyday work around bridging the gaps between ethical governance and rapid innovation and deployment of AI. Today, AI is no longer a futuristic concept. It's actively driving diagnostics in our hospitals, streamlining agricultural supply chains, modernizing public administration, and shaping financial inclusions across Rwanda, as the first panel introduced. And Rwanda's national AI policy of 2023 laid an inspiring foundation. However, as frontier models, generative AI and automated decision making integrate deeply into our public lives, we must address practical realities of accountability, data sovereignty, algorithmic failures, and institutional readiness. So by the end of this session, I want everybody to go back home with 3 main things. First is an actionable insights into how public institutions manage liability when AI systems produce errors, practical strategies for balancing rapid technologies, innovation with non-negotiable safety guardrails, and lastly, a clear perspective on how regional harmonization across Africa can protect our digital sovereignty and build trust. To break down this multi-layered issue, we're joined by 3 exceptional leaders who represent the full spectrum of Rwanda's AI ecosystem. And it's my pleasure to introduce them to you, and I will call each one of them to stage. First, representing Implementation Authority and Operational Reality across government, we have Mr. Antoine Sebera, Chief Executive Officer of Rwanda Information Society, RISA, where he leads operations engine behind Rwanda's digital transformation. Welcome, Mr. Antoine. Next, representing the innovation ecosystem and sectorial adoption, we have Mr. Olivier Twagirayezu, Director of Rwandan AI Scaling Hub at the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Olivier works at the intersection of emerging technologies, research, application, scaling AI responsibly across vital sectors. Last but not least, representing harmonization, policy integration, and regional scale, we have Mr. Didier Nakurikimfura, Director of Emerging Technologies and AI at Smart Africa Secretariat. So distinguished guests, please join me once again into welcoming this distinguished panel. So with such a strong combination of policy, technical development, and regional perspective, we're perfectly set up to unpack what moving from policy to accountability actually looks like. So let's open the floor with you, Mr. Antoine, by starting with practical reality on the ground. Research sits at the heart of Rwanda's digital public infrastructure. Public platforms such as Irembo, that we're all familiar with, are increasingly leveraging AI and automated workflows for citizens, verification and service delivery. In absence of a binding comprehensive AI law in Rwanda today, how is RISA managing accountability when AI-supported services make errors or disadvantage citizens? And also, can you touch on where does legal and administrative responsibility lie today? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alain. I want to take the opportunity to thank Richter for bringing us together in this very important conversation about Internet Governance Forum, Age of AI. We're living in exciting times. We're seeing a lot of promises AI is bringing to change our lives in different ways, the economy, the efficiency that we can gain with. But it's also coming with some challenges as well, and anxiety that is coming about the future. And when you look at the pace at which this technology is evolving, every 6 months there is a new model, even less. The amount of time now a new model is brought up and how more powerful it is compared to the previous one is again growing further and further. Now, we're talking about governance of AI, and initially we were looking at it in terms of ethics, in terms of privacy, but it's moving again in broader challenge and concern, including national security, human rights, competitiveness, resilience, and public trust. So no single country that is responsible should just sit as a spectator. We need to drive the adoption, the embracing it, and have a say in the way we are shaping AI. So where we are moving as a country, one, the trends and what is happening for Rwanda as well, we're looking at governance based on risk. We talk about a law. We have the EU that's passed the EU Act. We have the United States on the other side where they have different legislation, no federal legislation. They have different approaches. So our approach is more on a risk base, where you look at classification of different application of AI, not having a single broad law that can govern everything. We'll have an AI application in health, AI application in agriculture, AI application in education. They will share a lot of commonalities, but they will also have very specific requirements. So like in the case of Irembo, we worked on a risk matrix, guideline and regulation. That includes a few things. One, transparency and explainability, accountability, whether services are provided in a full autonomous way or whether they are backed by human, data governance and privacy, bias, fairness, and safety. So the risk matrix tries to encompass all the key elements that you need and adjust them in the specific area. Case in point is like in the health sector, when you talk about AI, what is it? Is it a doctor? Is it a medical device? When, for example, it is translating your radiology, it can be both a medical device, can also be playing a bit of the role of a doctor. So that's where we are going, and that's how we are positioning the National AI Agency that was created early in June. And the AI agency is going to address, of course, driving the use cases across the sectors, AI adoption in healthcare, education, and the rest, but we also establish the rules and work with the key sectors to now have specific regulation in those sectors. We have a few of them that we are working on, and those that were already initiated. And they will address the question on accountability. Is it on the developer side? Is it on the vendor of the solution? Is it the deploying organization, the case you mentioned about Irembo, or the user itself? So this matrix and the guidelines are actually guiding the way we are adopting AI in the respective sector, and also very fine-tuned along those use cases that we are working on. So it will be a combination of both, the ethical principle that will guide AI as a nation, but also having more regulation on the specific area. And it's important, again, to link it with the pace of development, the pace of innovation in AI, to have sufficient agile regulation rather than having a law. And you know the law is passed by the parliament, goes to the cabinet. So it's this balance we need to have between innovation and regulation, and having the two working together to deliver the value. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. You highlighted a critical point that while legal frameworks catch up, institutional trust relies heavily on immediate administrative safeguards. On to you, Mr. Olivier. Building directly on that operational reality, through the AI Scaling Hub, you're accelerating the deployment of algorithms in sensitive sectors like healthcare, diagnostics, education assessments. Innovators often want to move fast. What specific governance or liability gaps have you encountered in real-world deployment that the 2023 National Air Policy doesn't fully cover? And if you can also touch on the guardrails that you treat as non-negotiable before a project goes live. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you for having me here, and echoing CEO Tony, also an opportunity to thank Richter to bring us together to have a such forum and discussions. So going to the questions, you know, I'm talking from the side of the delivery unit, you know, the people who jump in the trench trying to make things happen as soon as possible. But since you asked about the gaps, I really want to make sure that I frame this very carefully. Why? I think since the national AI policy exists in Rwanda, the conversation have shifted. The conversation is no longer whether Rwanda needs AI governance. That was clear, and it was a good thing to do. But the conversation is more, how can we make governance practical enough to enable innovation and not slow it down? That being said, the policy has no gaps per se, but it needs to be complemented as we walk through the journey of operationalizing it. The way we approach it, you know, as the AI Scaling Hub, we've been mainly focusing on use cases that are delivered into 3 key sectors to start, which are agriculture, health, and education. And everybody can easily understand why these 3 sectors, in a way or another, they touch all of us every day. So the value and impact is seen. But sometimes, what may be missed when you actually, you know, work on a use case to deliver, you realize that we have some use cases that can deliver impact, but which maybe to some extent, or depending on the level where you are, may not necessarily have an economic sense. Which means basically, if we start, have we ever thought about what would be the cost to run it after a certain time of investment? Or have we even thought about the return on investment? But that's not something that you expect in the policy. And sometimes it's not even something you expect when you start. So as you go from project to project, 3 key points need to always be looked at in a way of complementing the foundation already laid by the policy. And those ones are, you know, for every project, it's key that, you know, we need to establish a governance that is proportional to the risk we have to deal with. As an example, if you have a chatbot, or if you have a medical diagnosis tool or an education assessment system, they do not carry the same risk for implementation. So therefore, it's good that based on the policy, each of those key use cases, we really zoom it down and now see what are the other protocol or standards or guidelines that we need to put in place to make sure that we deliver to the need while, you know, avoiding the identified risk. Because a risk in those scenarios, especially in the key sectors, may mean a lot. You know, a diagnostic that went wrong, it may bring up a message that the issue was the tool when probably the issue was how we use the tool. The second point is also we need to always, project to project, identify clear accountability across the AI life cycle. So that means that we really need to define responsibilities from the development to deployment and to continuous monitoring, because we are deploying solutions that we keep on living. And as Tony said, we are dealing with models that come up every 6 months or less. So we live in an ever-changing environment, and it's going to be like this for a long time. So we need to adapt and be ready for that. The other one, which will be a bit of the last point on this, we need to make sure that as we operationalize our standards in data quality and model validation, you know, we need to put in place the auditing, the monitoring and responsibility, basically so that all these key parts, they become part of the everyday implementation. And maybe to close on this, one thing to remember is that good governance or good policy should never become a brake on innovation. It should more become the confidence that allows innovation to move faster. That's the approach, that's the way we look at it. So let's complement it and not expect to identify the gap in the policy, because it was a general foundation to get started, but needs to be complemented now as we go from sector to sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olivier. And that's a good segue as we talk about technology that moves faster than governance. Mr. Didier, looking at this through a continental lens, Smart Africa works with dozens of African countries navigating the exact dilemma that was just mentioned, operating with these strategic policies but without binding AI legislation. How does Rwanda's current position compare to other African peers, and what risks or advantages does this policy-first, binding law later approach create for attracting investment versus protecting citizens?
Thank you very much, Alain, and good afternoon. Thank you again, Richter, for convening us. I think that's a very important question, because we're in the middle of an unusual revolution. I think we've lived long enough to see different revolution happening. The internet that started, the mobile revolution, that's the internet in the mid-90s, the mobile in the late 2006, 7, 8. And then from there were a few things that happened, a few technologies that came. But I think this one is quite unique, because it creates a lot of opportunities, but also a lot of uncertainty. I'm a person who closely follow also the global market to see how things are moving. There's no single week without a major announcement, and you see sometimes even stock market stumbling because of uncertainty that AI is actually bringing. Because it's so profound and powerful as a technology, and it creates also a majority of economic gains happen in the first year of any technology. The same way Google took advantage of the internet in the 2007, 8, no, sorry, 97, 98. I remember a student when we first saw Google coming. Same also what happened with iPhone. When it came, you remember those times. It's usually those few years that you see big companies really taking opportunities. So let me come to Rwanda. I think Rwanda has an advantage of moving fast compared to many other countries. 50 plus countries, 55, 54 countries. Again, it depends on whether you count one of the country, Western Sahara or not, but those are political conversation. When you look globally at the continent, Rwanda has definitely embraced and has been moving very, very fast. As we count, as of recent assessment, only 17 countries in the whole continent have a clear policy and strategy. The remaining 37, 38 countries do not have even a clear understanding about what they want to do with AI. Of course, they're amazed about the power of AI, but there's no clarity at a national level of what we want to do with AI. And I think Rwanda crossed that step, and the recent announcement of the Rwanda AI Agency was really also another testament that the country will take this, this very, very seriously. And we have, I think, a maturing ecosystem. We have an environment, a policy, regulatory environment that's, policy environment is quite clear. Regulatory, I think, is still at the beginning. I think Antoine has mentioned also the fact to have, it's important to have a regulation, and I think we need to get it right this time. For some time, when we do regulation, we really look at Rwanda. But for me, Rwanda is like Israel. Israel never do something only for them. They do something for the globe. So as we build our own regulation, it should, as Antoine said, it should not stifle innovation. It's extremely important that we have companies, we have solutions that solve local problems, but have the ability also to, it should not prevent the growth and beyond Rwanda, because Rwanda is a small market in terms, when I look at the globe, of course. We have 15 million people, but the globe is 8 billion people. So we need to carefully balance in a way that those who want to innovate, indeed, are not in a tight jacket. Because if they are in a very tight jacket, the ability of innovation will be crippled, will be limited. So I want to concur in the same direction that what Antoine was saying. But also, we have a name in the continent. And I say we, I work for Smart Africa, but I'm first a Rwandan. So when you go to other countries, you realize that what the leadership has done for us here is incredible. Rwanda, when you go to other countries on the continent, you realize that when you talk about our journey, you have a listening here. You have people who really are keen to do things with us. But we need to capture those opportunities. And I will even say that because of the maturity we have, let me go a little bit out of just this perspective of the national. I think, let me be a bit provocative somehow, right? We are at the really beginning of a revolution. If we really back some of our early companies here, and we put we give all the support. I'm talking here about especially at the public sector, the government really back some of those companies strongly. We'll be creating global companies starting from Rwanda. And that's what every country is doing. That's what the US is doing. The reason why the US is backing some of those frontier models, because they want to capture the economic opportunity. They're not doing it for the US, by the way. They're doing it for the globe. You go to Korea, you have some of those companies which are backed, again, some few champions, backed heavily. You go to China and find those companies that makes the news nowadays, Moonshot AI, Quen, all of these models, which they are strongly backed by the government. So let's not lose that sight, that we are not just solving local problem, but we should be also able to back strongly some of our early companies here to do beyond. So, Alain, I went a bit beyond. You asked about Rwanda, how does it compare? The answer is we're moving very fast, but let's not lose sight and try to think that we are doing something only for Rwanda. We need really to have the ability to build a policy and regulatory ecosystem that think about the bigger picture. And it comes also from the fact that both Rwanda and Kigali, just by the name, always meant big, right? When you talk about Rwanda, idea behind Rwanda is that something that is big. When we talk about Kigali, we think about something big. I think this also need to apply now on our policy and regulation, that we actually think big, because we have a real opportunity as a country. Thank you.
Thank you for giving us both local and global perspectives. Back to you, Mr. Antoine. And this one is specific to two pillars of AI, the physical infrastructure and energy. So as Rwanda scales public sector AI, how is RISA addressing our compute capacity and energy readiness? Specifically, what risks does infrastructure dependency, whether on foreign cloud giants like the Googles of the world, or local power constraints, pose to Rwanda's AI sovereignty and accountability? Thank you.
Thank you, Alain. Definitely for AI, you need compute. AI actually is built on compute and data. And yeah, we are in countries where we are still under heavy electrification. Still have cities, villages to connect, and then you have AI that is now creating a pressure on the grids, and it's not specifically in developing countries, but also developed countries. They're starting to see challenges in terms of electricity consumption, and even surprising on water consumption because of the heat and the cooling that you need for the data center. Approach is first differentiation. I don't think it's necessary that you need to compete with OpenAI or Anthropic to make a difference in the world. One, they have a different models. They're building data centers that are in $1 billion. They can go all the way out to $4 billion for a single data center. And, you know, a bigger risk again in data center is when you are building it and you don't have people that are using it. It's like having a hotel with a lot of rooms and no one is using it. So you need to find ways to make your differentiation work for you. So the way we are thinking about it is more of a hybrid approach. One, you know, Rwanda, the way we connect to the internet, the road to the intelligent to AI, we go through the neighborhood. We connect via Uganda, Kenya, but also via Tanzania to reach the submarine cables. And sometimes stability is an issue, not because we are having outage within Rwanda, but because it is being affected by neighboring countries. So the continent is not yet fully connected the way we would wish, so that we can rely 100% on the cloud. And satellite connectivity for a whole country is there, but not fully an option because of the amount of data that you need to drive. So there is a lot of merit in having a hybrid infrastructure where you are having AI inference that can be provided locally for different benefit that you can have. One being latency. You want fast service. You don't want to have inference from very far. Two, whether you're providing services, for example, this is in a hospital, you're using AI, or a court, or in a classroom, you need to have very high SLA. You cannot afford to have this downtime. So there are cases where you can use the global cloud and compute capacity outside of the country for training your models. There are use cases where you don't even have everything locally. If you are a designer, for example, you want to generate images, you want to generate videos, there's no private data that you're handling. Feel free to go ahead. Don't feel that you are constrained to do everything locally. And if you want to train, also you can use data. There are ways to anonymize data, to minimize data, and benefit from the compute that is outside of the country to train the models. But inference is where we see immediate benefit and high benefit to the economy, is where you can use high level of data and the compute that is made locally to generate the intelligence that you need. So we are in discussion with different partners. The existing data centers have shown limitation. When we started to buy GPUs and deploy them, we have some. They have shown that the infrastructure that we have here
has limitation, and limitation is in the design. Most of them were created before 2022. AI has been there for very long, but the conversation started in October 2022 when we woke up in the morning and we saw there is ChatGPT. The world sort of changed, so we all have to adopt and catch up on that. So conversation is ongoing with different private operators for PPP and also different investment. And when they are looking at is to see enough volume in the country. So we are working to aggregate the demands from different ministries, from different users, and put them together to attract this investment that can go there. Two is on the modularity. Instead of building mega data center, I know one country, I don't want to mention the name, they had committed to do a mega data center, and guess what? This was 30% of the entire country electricity. It ended up failing because you cannot just give 30% of your energy. But if you are strategic enough, you can work now with existing technologies that allow modularities. You build as you start getting more traffic and you continue to grow. Data center filling up, the first one, the second one, the third one will be able to have the compute capacity in the ground. So we're looking at a period of 12 to 18 months to start seeing more and more GPUs and compute capacity locally for the inference side. And the training, there are different models you can use from outside, including open source models, which are already pre-trained, that you can test locally, and that you can adapt to your own context. In the global trends that you see again is energy saving. Everyone is complaining about, AI consuming a lot of energy. So there are developments that you're seeing. Beside NVIDIA, Amazon is doing also some investment in GPUs similar to Google that are now more and more specialized, less generalized, and then that are consuming less electricity, and we're watching the space to see how we can benefit from that. Last point is on the energy generation. Key project in the country, basing on methane, but increasingly going towards now nuclear. I think you've seen some announcements, and there was a big meeting during the year. We announced the SMR. These are small and modular reactor. A lot of innovation that are happening in the nuclear industry, where you will address the issue of power, lack of power, essentially generation, but also being self-reliant. Because when you move with nuclear energy, you're able to generate it locally, it is cost effective, and then you can be independent and not have to import the energy that we need. So these combined are giving us good promise that we address the issue of compute. And we should not look at compute as if else, only in the country or only outside of the country, but rather a combination of both, and using the right compute for the right problem you are solving or the right opportunity that you are trying to address. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. It is true, compute and infrastructure are clearly the silent bedrock of AI sovereignty. But infrastructure is only as effective, again, as the data frameworks that cross our borders. Maybe I'll throw this back to Mr. Didier. And picking up on that cross-border dimension, AI model data flows, and unfortunately, AI-driven cyber threats, financial fraud, do not stop at national borders. Why is regional harmonization of AI governance essential to Rwanda's national accountability efforts? And what does practical collaboration between Rwanda and the continent look like in practice?
Thank you, Alain. I think what is true, the borders are known by humans, but data that do not know borders. Cybersecurity do not know borders. It's us as human, we say this is the territory of Rwanda or Kenya. It's a human thing. In technology, it's cross-border. That's why you have systems, an AI system. We're using ChatGPT, right? I'm sure all of us use it today, or many of us. but it's not hosted in Rwanda. It's hosted somewhere in the US or maybe in different places. So that's the nature of technology. So for technology to, for Rwanda, I think on multiple front, safety, not only safety, but also security, but also economic interest also as a country. I think it's important that collaboration happens across the continent. So what does it mean in practice is, again, I'll give the example of a company that has built a fantastic solution here. The challenge is going to face is when you move to another country. I'm sure there are entrepreneurs here, there are startups. It's incredibly difficult to move from a country A to country B because whatever you knew, you have to unlearn first and relearn. Because you're going to another country, you need to understand what are the regulations, what are the policy, what is allowed, what is not allowed. And you have to hire a consultant to help you to comply, compliance being another thing. So they will work well here, but the moment they cross the border, they'll face a lot of challenges. So I'm not even saying that it's only good for Rwanda, it's good for Africa. We have a continent of 1.4, 1.5 billion people, a huge market. We have a youth and tech-savvy population. People are happy to actually use and consume some of those services. But it will, in practice, because of the challenges and the difference that happen, it's incredibly difficult for a company really to move from a country to another country. So on your point, Alain, on your question, collaboration is important, harmonization is important. And that's why the AI Council was formed last year. The board of Smart Africa approved and established a new council. It's called African AI Council. And among part of their mandate is to look at how do we harmonize some of those regulations. Fortunately, there's not much of regulatory work that has been done on AI so far. So we're still a bit early in this, but remember, AI also rely on data protection and other consideration like cybersecurity. I think we have an opportunity to remove some of the barriers that exist and at that level between countries so that together the continent, we move from just the concept of national sovereignty to continental sovereignty. I think it's very important because I think Tony was mentioning that AI, for example, has posed a serious constraint in terms of energy. We don't have enough energy to accommodate those gigawatt data center. We can do modular to serve the current market, but also to serve beyond Rwanda progressively. And if you see globally also, people have invested in gigawatt data centers. The cost of some of these GPUs is also dropping. So when you buy too much more than what you need, you actually lose also over time, right? But the model is really, really good. But how do we get people, as we build our modular data center over time, to also use our own infrastructure? It can only happen when you harmonize the regulation. So someone in Uganda will trust to host his data in Rwanda, for example. So this is one of the efforts that the AI Council is doing, is looking at how do we create a sort of predictive, harmonized environment that will benefit the continent, not just the country. Because if everyone is fragmented, it means that Rwanda will only be able to serve 15 million people. Kenya will have a larger market, 50-something million. The big countries will definitely benefit. Egypt, countries like Egypt, 100 plus. Ethiopia will benefit. Of course, Nigeria, 230 million people. Tanzania, 70 plus million people. But then countries like Gabon, which is only 2 million people, or Seychelles, I think they're 500,000. They're going to be nowhere. But if we create a space I think that's really what the FCT also has been trying to do. A space which benefit the continent. I think there'll be more winners than losers. So the AI Council, and we have Minister Paula Ingabe, our Minister of Nigeria, we have the Minister of Kenya, Zimbabwe, different ministers, but also the private sector. Orange, we have companies like, again, some of the big tech also were interested. So there's a team that working to see how can Africa really benefit. We have high hope with the work that they're doing, that it will really create a space which is economically attractive for also a country like Rwanda to tap into resource. For example, if we want to train a model and we don't have capacity here, how can, for example, how can we use some of these capacity which we don't have for the moment, but it's residing in another continent? It requires adjustment on our own regulation, looking at the continent as an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Didier. Olivier, to wrap up this round on ecosystem building, Rwanda is positioning itself as a sandbox and hub for AI innovation. Beyond the policy work, what specific competitive advantages make Rwanda attractive for ethical research and frontier model adoption?
Thank you, Ali. You know, since we're starting between people in lunch, I can have a short answer or an elaborated answer. But let me start with the short one, then elaborate later. So, in simple words, I will say, to me, Rwanda works. That's really as simple as this. Right here, you have an example. These two gentlemen, about 6 years ago, one was among the people who gave me the first consulting contract in Rwanda. And the other one was leading the project I was to deliver. And now they are partners in different ways, but you can see a lot of this in Rwanda ecosystem. Basically, when delivery is there, things go very well. And when it comes to now why Rwanda is so attractive, maybe one thing to highlight is Rwanda is not trying to become the biggest AI ecosystem. The main thing is mainly to find a way to actually build and become the most trusted place to build and scale AI solutions that, especially that target critical problem. That's the idea. And now, how do you make a difference now out of this? When you really zoom closely to Rwanda, and you can imagine, again, you know, I used to be part of Smart Africa, and at some point I had projects that were touching more than 30 countries, and I visited all of them at different occasions. When you look at the way that things are done in Rwanda, you know, Didier won't shoot me at this, but I can say Rwanda really stands among the top where digital transformation can be easily conducted. Why? First, in Rwanda, the ecosystem is very conductive. Now, when we talk to AI, you know, again, being on the delivery side, if for some reason we need to convene people to talk about, you know, an urgent matter, like compute infrastructure, with a couple phone calls and emails, in 1 or 2 days, you can have all the key people to discuss about this in the same room, and you come out with an action point. That's not something that you can achieve in many African countries easily. You know, sometimes it will take you months to get 5 people in the room. When in Rwanda, sometimes even on a WhatsApp group, things get moving. So that's key. The other part is Rwanda have worked and continue on working on the enablers. That's key. Area you asked about the policy. So when it comes to AI governance, the policy is there, the data protection policy and law is there, the data sharing policy, and all these are in operation in a way. And most importantly, regulators in Rwanda They are not there just to, I will say, give you penalty when you don't comply. You can even call them for advice. You know, we've had scenarios like this where we have discussion with Frontier Lab, and we really put up a bit of a question saying, it's like, how do you get to start working in Rwanda when you have these models that are most likely going to treat critical data? How do we approach? And the regulator start more in a way of advising you before you even go into the actual process of being certified and all this. So that makes a big difference when you're trying to deliver. And when you talk about the other key enablers like Tarrant, you know, the public infrastructure, you've seen Justice there alone. We have Tony, we've had Josephine on digital ID. We had people talking about payment and digital assets. All this, again, shows you how much. We even had MTN talking about connectivity. Basically, the key enablers are in place, and they continue to evolve and get better. That's a key part that you also find in Rwanda, which makes it more attractive. The third point, which I can, you know, kind of end on, is now the approach. You know, the Rwanda ecosystem, the decision maker in the ecosystem have understood and embraced that the best way is, instead of thinking about finding a technology, since we're talking about AI, finding a model, and then we work to try and find a problem that fits the model. Actually, the approach is the other way around. We focus on first understanding the problem, understanding the users, understanding the beneficiary, and then go to build or find a technology that actually fixes the problem. So that eliminates a lot of, I would say, unneeded demerge, you know, unneeded steps, because you are actually building to fix what you need as critical and adopting a model that actually works for you. Tony talked about it again when he talked about the approach for compute building, by going in a modular way so that at some point we only deliver what is needed and wait for the rest, so we build as we go. So that's key, something that you find in Rwanda that you probably may not find in so many other places. And just as a crossing one, since we are in this journey of innovation, it's important to understand that innovation flourishes where ambition meets execution. And Rwanda is building both. This is something you find in Rwanda, which it's not a granted scenario in many other countries. That's what makes Rwanda the best to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olivier. Before we go to the last round of rapid fire question, I wanted to see if there's one burning question in the audience so that we can also interact with them before we close this session. There's a gentleman, facilitator, please help us with the mic. There's a gentleman in the back. And make it quick, one question, very quick one. Introduce yourself and then straight to the question.
All right, thank you very much. So my name is Christian Ngarambe, and I had one question. I think you know, one of the panelists can take it. So with the AI significantly increasing, simply all over the country or even nationwide and the whole world, we've heard of plans to build data centers in the country. And my question was more of about the resources that we have as the nation and the environmental impact. How are we, or what are the plans to manage these, the energy efficiency, the renewable energy, but also the water resources, so
Good.
as to also
Good.
match
Good.
the
Good.
needs for the community?
I think your point is taken now.
And I think Director, Tony had addressed this specific one. If there's anything specific maybe to that he needs to highlight? Maybe this is an opportunity from what was not discussed when we talk about infrastructure and energy.
Sure, I can say he's an environmentalist, so I need to satisfy him as well. So definitely in the construction of data center now, the power usage efficiency is a critical KPI that you need to meet, and other environmental protection, guidelines and regulations that you have to consider when you are building. It's a tier 3 data center that you are planning to build with very efficient power PUE. And also there are many ways now, a lot of innovation is happening in the data center space to minimize the amount of energy you're using. And essentially we spend a lot of energy because of the cooling, and there are ways that we are doing that to save the precious resources that we are having. So these are going to be addressed in the design of the data centers.
Yes, so this is the last one, and it goes to all three of our esteemed panelists. If Rwanda begins drafting its first binding AI law tomorrow, what is the single accountability gap, whether liability, enforcement, fragmentation, or misuse, that must be closed first, and why? 20 seconds each.
Yeah, so I'd say the high-risk AI systems, those ones that touch sensitive data, personal identifiable data, especially when it touches to health, when it touches to issues around finance also, because there are some aspect of AI or public service. You need always at the end to have a way to have someone, a human or an organization at the end of the process who can also serve as the accountable party. So high-risk AI system.
High-risk AI system. Thank you.
Thank you. I will say AI will be as good as the data it has learned from or it is using. So data is very critical. Fragmentation and duplication, we need to make sure we have the right data in the right format that can enable the different AI use cases and models that we have.
Data governance.
Good. So on data governance, not only data quality is key, but bringing together the right people at the table from the beginning is very key to this project. We have few resources. We need to, I would say, manage them carefully. We need to streamline this. So we need to avoid fragmentation, but it's really like, again, bring the right people to the table right now before you actually start even writing the first code. That should be something that have to be addressed so that we avoid really going in different direction while solving 80% similar problems. That would be the way. Thank you.
Multi-stakeholder collaboration.
Yes.
So thank you. Please join me to thank our esteemed panel. I think this was very informative, although time was short, but those that have any burning questions, please feel free to write them down. We will pass them to the right individuals. And I think according to our program, this concludes our session. And let me hand this over to Mr. Robert to take us on to the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, my closing remarks will be to thank you as you're still on the panel, because I will ask you to take a picture. But before that, if you don't see your company, your organization, your name at the bottom of this flyer, we are giving you one last chance. If you don't appear here next year, you won't appear anywhere again. So I want to thank everyone who has made this possible, from the committee to the sponsors, to the youth forum and the school, and ISOC for having delivered what they delivered, which was very nice for the youth, and to the participants and the keynote speakers who came here to give us the wisdom that we needed in this room. We thank you immensely, and we look forward to being with you next year. This is an annual event, but like we promised, IGF Secretariat is going to do more, especially but it's a bottom-up approach, like I told you. We'll be onboarding different stakeholders, from parliament to the judiciary, to the executive, to the security organs, to the civil society. So we'll be doing this annually, and we hope this is going to create the environment we need to govern the common good that we all consume. I won't stand between you and your lunch. Lunch is already served. It's in the big tent. But before we leave, a picture with the last panel. And thank you all. And like I told you, if you don't clap, I won't leave here, and you won't go for lunch. Thank you very much.